evacuations are ever ordered in a tropical storm, you do not leave your pets behind. If you can't bring your pet with you, there are some options. You can ask a friend or a relative if they can house your pet. Also, contact shelters and veterinarians to see if they house animals during emergencies. If your pet is traveling with you, make sure you prepare a portable pet disaster kit. Include food, water, medicine, and medical records, leashes, a travel case, and a photo of the pet with contact information. For more pet safety and other disaster tips, just visit floridadisaster.com.
Rain and wind gusts are hitting downtown Punta Gorda right now. Wink News reporter Amy Osher shows us what Hurricane Idalia is doing to that area.
We already had one major feeder band come through here, and for folks in Charlotte County, that's one too many. Talk about storm fatigue. People in Charlotte County have gone through two major hurricanes. First Charlie, then Ian, fresh in memory. They're understandably worried about Idalia. The neighborhood on the banks of Charlotte Harbor is notorious for flooding. It's been known to get high water in a tropical storm. The streets along Retta Esplanade are actually lower than Charlotte Harbor. So if the wind, rain, and tides are aligned, the harbor flows right into the neighborhood. We haven't seen too many people out and about here because they've learned all too well to take the storm seriously. Being on the right side of the storm, which is often the wet side, that's what they're braced for, that's what their fear is. Reporting in Punta Gorda, I'm Amy Osher, Wink News.
Thank you very much, Amy. Portable generators are a great resource for reliable backup power, but they can also be deadly if they're used incorrectly. They produce poisonous, colorless, odorless gas that can be fatal. According to the Bayshore Fire Department in Fort Myers, you should follow the rule of 20 when using a portable generator. Keep the generator 20 feet from your home. Cool the generator for at least 20 minutes before refueling. And buy a carbon monoxide alarm. They cost $20.
Well, we're continuing to follow Hurricane Idalia. Don't go anywhere because we have much more to come for you here on Wink News.
Do you know what mic you're on?
I think it's D.
She's on E as an echo. 220 and break.
Perfect.
Afternoon. Storm surge and minimal flooding currently starting to take place. This is out at Fort Myers Beach from a Wink News viewer. Sent this one in about 30 minutes ago. As you can see, the docks slowly starting to be inundated from that storm surge, which we are anticipating to top out at roughly about 1 to 3 to potentially 2 to 4 feet of storm surge along our direct coastline communities. Now, as of right now, Hurricane Idalia still churning and swirling off the southwest coast of Florida. We've been dealing with some of these original outer bands over the last couple of hours. Matt was on air continuously talking about a few tornado warnings. As of now, happy to report there is no severe weather in southwest Florida. Now, what you're seeing with this yellow polygon right there, that is a current severe thunderstorm warning across pockets of Broward County. So that's not in our viewing area, but you can see we are dealing with a severe thunderstorm warning essentially well to the west of the Fort Myers area or Fort Lauderdale area, Broward County, until 3:30. So about the, what time is it? For about the next 5 or 10 minutes. So fortunately, that is not in our viewing area, but long story short, we are expecting the chance and opportunity for severe thunderstorms and also some of these capable of producing isolated tornadoes. Back here closer to home, locally in southwest Florida, you can see bands of moderate to heavy rain rapidly drifting from the south to the north at about 30 to 40 miles per hour. So the majority of Collier County right now dealing with some sort of light, moderate, and or heavy rain shower activity. But as of now, we're not seeing any rotation. That is good news. This is just some steady soaking rain with gusty conditions in excess of about 20 to 40 plus miles per hour. So Everglades City, Marco Island, Naples, Golden Gate, north through Bonita Springs, Ave Maria, and Immokalee, all currently dealing with a steady soaking rain. We can zoom in a little bit closer, right on top of portions of Alligator Alley and the Tamiami Trail. So hopefully you're not out commuting. You're basically staying safe, hunkered at home, keeping it tuned here to Wink News. We have got continuous coverage of this storm over the next many hours. We're not here with you. We're going to take you through it step by step. And if anything severe and or tornadic pops up, both myself and Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt, we will be on top of it. As of now, also tracking pockets of very heavy rainfall working their way into portions of both Moorhaven and Clewiston. You all have been relatively quiet over the last hour. Now this outer band is rapidly moving towards you, so you are certainly seeing some ominous looking skies as you're looking to the south from both Moorhaven and Clewiston. Also tracking some cloud to ground lightning, a cluster of thunderstorms just to the south of downtown. And you can see right where the heaviest of the rainfall is with the higher and brighter reflectivity colors of those deeper and darker shades of oranges and reds. Let's zoom in. Clewiston, you all are currently starting to get slammed. Moorhaven, especially on the south end of town, you all are seeing that pocket of heavy rain. And once again, this is moving to the north at roughly at about 30 to 40 miles per hour. So it is quick, it is heavy, and we'll likely be dealing with some gusty conditions in this general region. Then we can work our way further a little bit to the west from Paradise Park, right on top of Highway 31, Babcock Ranch, and to the north, dealing with areas of heavy rain shower activity. 75, 41 in Charlotte County as well, from Northport through Port Charlotte out towards Deep Creek, Punta Gorda. You all currently getting inundated with heavy rainfall. Not seeing too much in the way of white dots, maybe a couple of those, so maybe a couple of rumbles of thunder, but this is just some steady, soaking tropical downpours. And honestly, this is exactly what we were expecting this afternoon across our area of southwest Florida. We were going to have rounds of heavy rain and then a little bit of lull in the activity, and then round number 2 and so forth, and that will likely be the trend over the next many hours. So also working our way out to coastal Lee County, Pine Island, north, Bokeelia, south through St. James City, also dealing with heavy rain. Boca Grande, south through Captiva and Sanibel, been getting soaked and also slowly starting to see a little bit of that water beginning to pile up across our direct coastline as those winds are coming in from the south and the southwest, which will gradually push water from the Gulf of Mexico up in our inland zones, which is why we are currently under a storm surge watch. Further down to the south from Vanderbilt Vanderbilt Beach through Pelican Bay out towards Golden Gate Estates, 75 and the Bend, creating Alligator Alley, also dealing with areas of heavy rainfall. As of now, we're not seeing any flood advisories. We haven't been dealt with any flood warnings or watches, so that is good news. But if any of those do pop up, we will be the first to let you know. This is nothing that Southwest Florida can't handle. We've been through worse. We will definitely get through this one. We want to reiterate, this has nothing like an Ian. This is a tropical storm that will continue to work its way. This is a hurricane with tropical storm force winds, I should say, for us here in Southwest Florida. That will be the largest impacts along with the storm surge across our direct coastline. So loop over the last hour, once again, highlighting where that outer band currently is, slowly starting to work its way into southern and southeastern Florida on the western edges of both Palm Beach, Broward, and into Miami-Dade County. So a couple of hours ago, we were dealing with some very, very heavy rain and strong winds, and we had some tornado warnings. As of now, this is just a steady soaking rain, also tracking that cluster of thunderstorms that has just moved to the north of the LaBelle area. So how much rain have we picked up this afternoon? Radar estimates, Wink Doppler 3X radar estimates, highlighting anywhere this afternoon ranging from about 1 to 3 inches of rain. So this actually is great news. This is exactly what we need. We need these tropical downpours. This isn't going to be a drought-busting storm system, but it will definitely put a dent in our current drought deficits, especially from 75 and west towards the coastline, which is where we are likely going to see the heaviest of the rain accumulations. We'll still see impressive rainfall totals in our inland zones, but obviously closer to the coastline you are, the larger the impacts will be felt in terms of rain accumulations, gusty winds, and obviously our coastline. We're still talking about storm surge impacts. Let's zoom into Collier County from Naples south through the Isle of Capri, Marco Island, Layley Resort. These radar colors right here, about 1 to 2 plus inches of rain, and this is just from this morning through this afternoon. So this is great news. Steady soaking rain where we desperately need it. Slowly working our way north into northern Collier and into southern Lee County from Pelican Bay through Vanderbilt Beach, through Bonita Springs, and out towards Lovers Key as well. Still dealing with radar estimates of about 1 to 2 inches of rain, and obviously we will continue to see more accumulations as we work our way through Tuesday afternoon and overnight. Babcock Ranch, North Fort Myers and into Fort Myers, estimates of about 1 to 2 plus inches. So yeah, I say Mother Nature, bring it on. Let's just stay away from the severe weather. We can deal with some gusts, 20, 30, 40, 50 miles per hour. We're okay with that. What we are benefiting from is the copious amount of rain beginning to pile up in our area. So that is some good news. Lesser amounts in our inland zones, but we'll continue to track and monitor this. I wanted to go broad once again and show you right where that center of the eye is, about 180 miles to the south and west of downtown Fort Myers. So as of now, that's all I got. I'm going to toss it back to the desk with both Lois Tomey and Amanda Hall. Lois and Amanda, what do we got going on?
All right, thank you very much, Greg. The storm still rages on, so let's take a look at Fort Myers Beach, shall we?
Greg was showing us all those rain bands coming through. Fort Myers Beach is getting them as well. Wake News reporter Michael Hudak is live there. Michael, what's happening?
Guys, I'm coming to you live from the 12th floor of the Diamond Head Beach Resort on Fort Myers Beach, where I can give you an all-encompassing view that you might not be able to see in many places on the beach. We can literally assess all the different places on the beach and how they are doing. You've got questions, I've got answers. Question number one, how are the waterways, Michael? How are the canals? For the most part, it's pretty good. The status is pretty good. We haven't seen a lot of the water emerge onto people's properties. You can see that clearly right there. Michael, how are the roadways? How is the flooding in the roadways? Honestly, not that bad. It was a little bit worse about 1-2 hours ago during the tornado warnings that you guys were talking about, and our meteorologists were doing a great job articulating and covering. We had the worst of the storm here so far today. Another question, how's travel going? We mentioned earlier the traffic and all of the busyness and the congestion. Right now you can see that bridge. It's clear moving. Luckily, there's not a lot of people coming onto the beach. There's a lot of people exiting the beach. Another question that you got for me, how's the water? How's the surf? surge? How's the flooding? Let's take a look at the water right now as we kind of zoom in towards the pier. Honestly, it has receded and we experienced high tide. I've also got a pretty good update for you right now. Again, we're not through the whole thing right now, but I want to give you a good update. So I want to take some video for you. And earlier today, I was showing you and was live from Times Square as water was engulfing the area and really encompassing places like Yotako and encompassing places like La Ola. I am happy to report that the water there in Times Square did recede to a degree and that the drainage system worked in Times Square. That is very good news. Again, it's roughly 3:30, so we are making our way through this day, but as of right now, the status of Fort Myers Beach is looking pretty good. For now, reporting live on Fort Myers Beach, Michael Hudak, Wink News.
All right, thank you very much, Michael. We're going to go down to the Isle of Capri right now because Wink News this morning anchor Lindsay Sablon alerted us to this video that we're about to show you. This is the high water levels at Isle of Capri. This was about 1:36 this afternoon. Of course, Isle of Capri near Marco Island, the same place where we had all that crazy weather, some tornado warnings earlier this afternoon. But you can see the effects of the churned up water, the additional surge coming in from the churned up waves off the Gulf of Mexico in Isle of Capri. You're watching Wink News, continuing coverage of Hurricane Idalia. We'll be right back.
Solid for their countertops. Why rock solid?
Any lightning in the area, they would have to delay release. So I'm very happy and thankful to our parents, our faculties, our employees and community for the support that you've provided the school district for being closed today. Very much the same situation can occur tomorrow morning. As this storm goes past us, we're not sure all the tropical winds will be gone by 5 a.m. when most of our bus drivers are reporting to work and some of our students are already in the process of moving their way to the bus stop. Just don't think it's a safe place for our children or our drivers or our employees to be on the road so early tomorrow morning. So the school district of Lee County has closed operations for tomorrow. The good side of that will be it will provide us some time mid-morning to the afternoon to go out and assess all of our buildings and make some determinations regarding operational status for Thursday. So thank you again to our community, our parents, our students, and all of our employees for heeding the words of this Emergency Operations Center. Stay home tonight, stay safe, and as soon as we can reopen school, we will. We don't have any reports on any of our buildings having damage at this time, and it would be standard operating procedure for us to check every building before reopening.
Do we have any further questions at this time?
Commissioner Wayne, what is the feeling on Sanibel after having to deal with this while they're still trying to recover from what happened last year? Has there been any kind of change in the dynamic or discouragement among citizens or anything like that?
No, sorry. No, not at all, Bill. I mean, what people are actually going through, talking to both the mayor and Councilwoman Smith, you know, they're prepared and they're certainly very vigilant.
Okay, you're listening to Lee County officials doing their 3:30 update. You heard from Dr. Bernier about Lee County schools being closed tomorrow and his rationale for why they will continue to keep the schools closed to make sure students and employees and bus drivers are safe. And they'll give us an update sometime tomorrow afternoon about the following day, and we'll, of course, bring that to you. In the meantime, our Hurricane Idalia coverage continues. Wake News reporter Claire Galt is live on Manasota Key. And Manasota Key are much closer to the highest impact areas where Idalia is going to be passing along some heavy wind and rain. Tell us, Claire, what you've been experiencing in the last hour.
That's absolutely right, Lois. We are already seeing that rain, that wind, and really these waves, they are getting choppier and choppier. They're getting bigger. That tide is rising. But despite that, people are still out on the beach, just watching the storm together. We've got all these guys over here that I've been talking to. They told me they're all here for support together. None of these guys knew each other before, but now they all do. This is the Philbin family. So how are you guys feeling right now? Why did you come to Manasota Key today to watch the storm?
We're feeling pretty good. I mean, now that it's going a little bit out of our direction, came down here to check out the waves compared to how they were during Ian.
How about you? How are you feeling?
Good.
Are you scared? Are you happy? What are you feeling?
Excited.
You're excited? But you got to stay safe, right?
Yeah.
How about you? How are you feeling?
Good. I'm glad it is going north of us and it's not hitting us again.
Absolutely. Were you here?
I was. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was bad.
Well, luckily, we're not going to see anything like Ian this time around.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. How are you guys all doing over here?
Awesome. How are you doing?
We're good. We're good. How are you feeling ahead of the storm? What brought you out here to, watch it all together?
Because we want to jump in the ocean and enjoy the hurricane, and it's a beautiful day.
But stay safe, right?
Absolutely.
This one's far enough away. Unlike Ian, you can enjoy.
This is nothing like Ian was. This hopefully will not hit here.
Intimidated.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Last year, this is nothing.
Right, you've really withered the storm, so to speak.
As long as it doesn't make a quick right turn, we'll be happy.
So are you feeling a sense of relief this time around?
Yes.
A little bit. I mean, we're worried about a surge.
As long as the
surge could be a big thing, yeah. As long as it stays either way north or way, as long as it doesn't tamper or sort of, then we're good.
Absolutely, and we'll keep them in our prayers as well. What you heard them, guys, they're not stressing out, they're staying calm, but everybody obviously needs to stay safe, take precautions, get inside, board up those doors if you need to, get your non-perishable, don't stress, but again, stay safe. Lois, Amanda.
Yeah, Manasota Key does have a history of beach erosion, so we understand their concern about surge and those types of things on the beaches there. Thank you very much, Claire. Well, FDOT is monitoring all our bridges right now. According to the Lee County Department of Transportation, they strongly advise drivers against crossing any bridges. There are no barricades or cones or gates because that's not what we do in Southwest Florida. They can be easily blown away during a tropical system, but that doesn't mean they want you to go across those bridges either, because things can be hazardous, wind gusts can be strong. Law enforcement officers might also be around during today's weather event if they don't want you in an area. More road closures due to Idalia. This is John Morris Road leading to Bunch Beach. You can see there is a lot of water on the road there. Of course, Bunch Beach surrounded by mangroves and right on the Gulf of Mexico. So if there's any type of rising tide or storm surge, it is an area that will be heavily affected by that. There's no timetable right now for reopening this road, but they will keep an eye on it, and county officials will determine that and do so when it's deemed possible. The parking garage in Punta Gorda is closed for the storm. Herald Court Center parking garage is closed to the public. It's being used right now as storage for the police and the fire department. If you have a car in that garage, we just want to warn you, you may be ticketed.
If you are in Cape Coral, they're telling you to keep your trash inside. The city of Cape Coral is telling people not to put their trash cans out tonight. The trash cans can turn into projectiles if the wind picks them up. The city says Waste Pro will start running Wednesday after sunrise, so you should wait to put out your trash until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Thursday and Friday trash pickups will not be affected. For the latest Idalia coverage, Wink News offers a host of options. You can watch Wink News on your Roku TV. You can stream us on your Amazon Fire TV, stream Wink News on your Google TV, download our Wink News app on your iPhone or your Android device. Idalia is here in Florida, bringing on a large amount of rain and wind to follow. The once tropical storm has evolved into a hurricane, and for the very latest, we want to get over to our chief meteorologist, Matt Devitt.
All right, sounds good. So far, everything's going according to plan. There have been no surprises. This will not take, I've been asked this question already, a hard 90-degree turn into Southwest Florida. We are in the clear, and that was the theme yesterday and the day before that, that this is not going to be our storm. And I hope that that can be very reassuring and calming to those at home that, you know, Ian was a lot for us in more ways than one, and Idalia is not going to be our system, but it will be a very potent storm up the coast towards the Big Bend. Actually, the current forecast, it could be the strongest storm that they have seen since 1896 for the Big Bend. So there is the core of it, and let me just reaffirm here that it hasn't been doing any surprises. It's going exactly where it should be. And there is the cone, and just for the reference here, I have put in the middle of it, the center line, and you can see right there how it's not wobbling left, it's not wobbling right. It is going exactly where the Wind Weather Team as well as the National Hurricane Center are thinking this is going to go, and it's not drastically going east. It is not heading into Southwest Florida, but we still are feeling some pretty significant impacts. I would like to go big picture once again. I want to show you how much breathing room we have in reference to us, and as we measure this out, and it's almost parallel to Marco Island, so we get about 200 miles, and that's good enough for me. It's 200 miles away, but because of the power of this thing and the motion around it, that counterclockwise flow, wind is a force, and it is forcing up the tides, and a surge level of 2 to 4 feet will be possible later on tonight. Let's go local here, and I want to make sure that everybody feels protected and knows exactly is what is going on where you live. So let's take it county by county. We'll first start into Collier County, where earlier we had the multiple tornado warnings, even a touchdown around the southeastern corner of Marco Island. If you have any pictures and videos of that, please let me know. Right now, nothing severe, it's just rain. Right now, we had a squall and a pretty batch of heavy rain pass by Moorhaven and Clewiston. Here's what's going to be your steady rain for Ave Maria and all the way towards Fort Myers in the heart of Lee County, Cape Coral, Sanibel, Captiva, as well as Estero. The worst weather that I am seeing right now, the bullseye, is DeSoto County and it's into Highlands County. That is one of the squalls. I want to switch over to what we call the velocity signature. It basically just indicates wind. And where you see these brighter shadings, that is strong, gusty wind that's being blown out from the storm. And there's the strongest part. And I want to analyze some of that. We're going to zoom back in to DeSoto County. And I would say those winds, yeah, we're talking 50, 60 miles an hour embedded within the squalls. That just passed by Arcadia, and it's not impossible that we see some spotty power outages. I will, as we go throughout the remainder of the afternoon and evening, be updating those numbers, and I'll be happy to relay that on TV. Let's take it now into Highlands County. And same deal, the squall has the potential of producing winds gusting over 40 miles an hour. I'm going to switch back over to radar. And just going to be your steady rain for Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, and all the way towards Rotunda. Here's a look at how much rainfall we've had for today, and considering we are battling a drought, this is all needed and all beneficial. I'm going to sample some of these observations, and we are already at about 1 inch to 2 inches of rain with these heavy, heavy downpours embedded within the squalls. Offshore, 200 miles to the west, the Gulf has had better days, man. Those wave heights upwards of 25 to 30 feet. Near our shoreline, the wave heights right now averaging at about 5 to 10. So here is the very latest on the hurricane. Category 1 intensity. You can see the flare-up of showers and storms. The wind field in diameter is about 230 miles wide from north to south, and that is shaded in yellow. Here are the stats as of the 2 o'clock update. 90-mile-per-hour wind. The pressure's at 974 millibars, and it is pushing to the north at 15. I expect this system to make landfall in the Big Bend with winds of or forward speed of about 17 miles an hour. For a reference, Ian passed by at just 9. So it's going to be making landfall twice as fast. So the wind speeds of 90 miles an hour, that makes it as an upper end Category 1. The forecast for the National Hurricane Center is for a Big Bend landfall at 125, and that makes it as a Category 3 with very likely devastating results. So there it is, the forecast cone, Category 3, as it will be nearing a landfall for Wednesday morning. Here's the zoomed in view as the highest probability, and the forecast has not changed. It is still narrowing in on our friends around Cedar Key, Perry, and even towards Lake City. It's going to be a rough go of it. Life-threatening storm surge 10 to 15 feet will be possible. Here is the concentration of the computer models as they are still wiggling and going back and forth, but averaging around the Florida Big Bend. These are the computer models, and I want to address this. I've already had a few questions online about the loop action back to Florida. That is right now only with a few models. I'm watching it for you very closely, but you know, when we look at computer models, don't always look at the worst. We want to look at the average, not always the worst case scenario. And you'll look at some of these that take it out to sea, others meander it, and for right now, just a few have it curving back to Florida. I will be watching that like a hawk, I promise you. Wind speeds right now are coming in from the south and southeast, sustained at about 5 to 15 miles an hour. Here's a live look across the entire area. We're cloudy, we're rainy. This is downtown Fort Myers. Watching some of the tide levels. We hit our high tide about an hour ago here at Wink. But I do expect the maximum surge potential to be between about midnight and 6 a.m. late tonight. That was Marco Island. This is the Sanibel Causeway. Same deal. You can see the higher tides right around the brim. Look very closely at the bottom of the boat. This is some of the waterways in Cape Coral. The overall impacts, we're feeling them, but not to the caliber of Hurricane Ian. We're about 2s and 3s in terms of wind, erosion, isolated tornadoes, and surge. Here's how everything is going to be playing out. And please keep in mind that as we go throughout the next 12 hours, as this system, this is 5 o'clock and all the way towards 8, starts to depart and go north, we see more of a wind coming in from the Gulf. Wind is that force that's going to be pushing up the tides and also coinciding with our second full moon of August. So here's the future track model by 10 o'clock going in and out of some of these outer bands of wind and rain. Here's the status by 2:30 in the morning all the way towards about 5 and 6 a.m. And embedded within these showers and storms, they may do what's called train. They rain over the exact same spots. Now, Southwest Florida may average 1 to 3 inches of rain, but within those slivers, a quick half foot of rain, not impossible. In terms of wind, the greatest wind gust potential is going to be along the coastline, but embedded within those squalls, as we saw today, you could see some winds gusting upwards of about 35, 55, even 60 miles an hour. This is into tomorrow morning, and then eventually you'll notice the values lowering second half of Wednesday, but still it will be gusty. Lingering rain from here on out, we have the opportunity for about 1 to 2 inches, but look at those slivers of yellow and orange. That is where locally it could be higher. Let's go over the midnight to 6 a.m. high tide expectation, and that's when we could see that surge of about 2 to 4 feet. Charlotte Harbor, 437. Boca Grande, about 219. Downtown Fort Myers, about 540. Matlacha, 445. Sanibel Captiva, give or take about 230, as well as 245. And then into Collier County, Naples, about 1250. Marco Island, 145. And Everglades City, we will be hitting about 3 o'clock for likely or maximum surge potential. So we're not going anywhere. We want to make sure that we keep you safe, and we will have continuous coverage on Hurricane Idalia in just a bit.
Yeah, let's head over to Wink News reporter Liz Byro, who is live on Sanibel for us. Liz.
Hi, Amanda. Yeah, I'm on Sanibel right now. I'm at Blind Pass Beach Park, and as you can see behind me, things are choppy out here, and there's a lot of wind right now, but things look a lot better than they did this morning. Around 11:20 a.m., the water stretched all the way from out here, all the way back, just up to Sanibel Captiva Road. Now, you may wonder why. Well, around 11:20, it was high tide. Now, I spoke to Mayor Richard Johnson, and I asked him, are you concerned, are you shocked or worried about Blind Pass's flooding? And he says no, and that's because they have prepared. Now, how have they prepared? Last week, Lee County started sand reconstruction on Blind Pass Beach, as well as further up the road at Turner Beach Park. What they were doing was laying down 70,000 tons of sand to reinforce this area. Now, as you can see, this sand is all wet. It's been covered up, and I spoke to Natural Resources Director Holly Milbrandt and asked, are we worried? We had just laid all this sand down. Now it's all gone away. And she said, no, this was right on time. This is exactly what we wanted it to do, because Sanibel Captiva Road is an evacuation route. We want to keep everybody safe. We want this area to be reinforced and hardened. They also were able to, in the recent days, send some sand over to Lighthouse Beach Park to reinforce that area and keep the lighthouse safe because of its proximity to the Gulf. Now, I also asked Mayor Richard Johnson about evacuations. Should people be evacuating? And he said people should do whatever they feel safe doing. If you feel safe in your home, stay there. If you feel like you need to leave, then leave. With this being said, Sanibel Fire and Rescue wants to advise people, if you're going over the Causeway, to exercise extreme caution. There's heavy wind gusts and heavy rain. Right now, like I said, the water has gone down a good amount. There's not been a lot of people, on the beaches. There have been a few people leaving, and Mayor Richard Johnson did say these are crews who are heading out. Most people on the islands who are here right now are staying in place, and I confirmed this when I went to Jerry's today, and most people saying that they are not evacuating. Live on Sanibel, Liz Byro, Wink News.
All right, Liz, thank you. Let's head nearby for more now on the effects of the storm.
Yeah, Wink News reporter Rodaris Richardson is live on Fort Myers Beach for us. Rodaris, how's it looking there?
Well, it's definitely a different picture than what I was showing you guys at 3 p.m. Things are calming down and the rain is kind of in and out. But I also wanted to show you the beach. Things are definitely looking much calmer for the beach. You can see that it's like a low tide now, and from where I was standing, the water would have been hitting my feet. So things are much calmer, like I mentioned, than what we showed you earlier, but people should not let their guard down, because winds, that's kind of how it's been all day. Winds would pick up, then go down. So it's still, we're still not in the clear. Now, I want to show you pictures of earlier today. I spoke with people that were on the beach, taking pictures and videos. They say, well, this kind of reminds them of Ian. They're hopeful that things are going to be much better this time around and that it's not going to be as bad.
I'm not really that worried about it, because every day they kept moving it more west, and I used to be an air traffic controller, so I know a lot about the weather. So I knew Sunday night with Ian how bad it's going to be, because they kept moving the hurricane further south, and that's when I decided to move my car. And I just had a bad feeling about that one.
Now, Fort Myers Beach leaders did declare a local state of emergency for those that are in trailers. It's recommended that you find somewhere safer to stay for tonight. Some of the shelters that were mentioned were the Estero Rec Center as well as the North Fort Myers Rec Center. For now, I'm live in Fort Myers Beach for Rodaris Richardson, Wink News.
And the good thing is, yesterday we saw so many people in trailers, people with food trucks and shipping containers that were packing up, heeding the warning, and they were leaving and going over the Matanzas Pass Bridge and going inland.
We want to keep checking our most vulnerable areas, and Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach certainly are too. We also want to get to the folks on Pine Island and Matlacha.
Yeah, so for that, let's get out live to Zach Oliveri, who's on Matlacha for us. Zach?
Amanda, we've been monitoring the levels here as the rain has started to lessen a little bit. The wind is starting to lessen, but you can see the levels of the water is still staying pretty steady. It hasn't gone up, it hasn't gone down, but you can see the boat ramp, it's creeping up pretty close to where we're standing right here. But if you look over by the docks onto the right, you can really see how close the water level is to the top of the dock. Before we were going live, we could see some of the water splashing up to some of the properties on the opposite side of where we're standing at Matlacha Community Park. We've seen a little bit of road flooding earlier today, but the last time we checked, it was able to subside. People I spoke to earlier today were just hoping for the best here, as it was almost like a two separate mindsets, where you had people who are still recovering from Hurricane Ian, very concerned, while you had others who were fortunate enough to rebuild since the storm, who are just taking this as, you know, another storm that we deal with here in Southwest Florida. And now, you know, luckily the rain has subsided a little bit, but last time we spoke to you at 3 o'clock, it was a lot heavier than it is now. We'll see what happens the next time we speak to you. So live on Matlacha, Zach Oliveri, Wink News.
And a nice little respite there. Thank you very much, Zach.
One of the things I think we're going to see this afternoon, and we'll keep checking with all of these folks and our meteorologists, is we're going to see the conditions change, get worse, get better. Tides will go up, obviously down. Our bigger high tide worries are later on tonight.
Yep, so settle in, folks. We have a long night ahead.
Yeah, let's get over to meteorologist Greg Rule with the latest on where the storm is and where it's headed.
Yeah, boy, there's definitely a lot to talk about. Thank you so much, Kristen. Amanda, let me push this out of the way. This has been Matt's go-to right there for severe weather. So anytime we do have severe thunderstorms and or tornadic development pop up, Matt or myself will be on camera and literally using our capabilities on the screen in real time, highlighting what you all can expect. But as of right now, Hurricane Idalia churning and swirling off the coast of Southwest Florida by roughly about 180 to 200 miles. So we've already dealt with the first outer bands. Man, and it really rocked us here in Southwest Florida, especially along our coastline of Collier County, where earlier this afternoon we had multiple tornado warnings. So this is what we were expecting this afternoon. Tropical bands, heavy downpours, gusty conditions, isolated tornadoes. We've seen all of those. Well, let me back you up. We haven't had any confirmed reports of tornadoes, but we have had tornado warnings over the last couple of hours. Now, as of the 2 p.m. update, right, we did have a confirmed? Marco confirmed tornado. Matt just let me know that. I stand corrected. My apologies. Live television, these things happen. So the 2 p.m. update, it's currently 4 o'clock. We're going to get the newest update and tropical information coming at 5 p.m. That'll update all the stats, the wind, the pressure, the movement, and the location. But the biggest thing, it'll update the forecast cone, and we'll see right where we're expecting Idalia to head up. But we are pretty confident that it will be a landfalling impact storm across the Big Bend. But as of 2 p.m., 90-mile-per-hour winds. Pressure has dropped from about 987 yesterday to currently at 974. So the lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. Good news with Idalia. It is moving fast to the north. It's not moving at a snail's pace. So to give you some context, Ian was moving at about 9 miles per hour. Roughly about 10 miles per hour and below that, that's considered a slow-moving tropical system. About 15 and above, that's considered a fast-moving tropical system. That's exactly what we want. Let Idalia come in, do what it's going to do, and then get on out of here. So hopefully that will be the case over the next 12 to 24 hours. Still expecting that landfall somewhere around the Big Bend, north of Tampa, around Cedar Key, and just to the east of Apalachicola, likely tomorrow morning. I think best timing estimates as of now between around 5 a.m. upwards to around 10 a.m. and the noon time frame. So as Matt's been saying over the last 24 hours, this is not going to be a Southwest Florida landfalling storm system. Are we going to feel the effects? Yeah, we're dealing with them right now, but this is nothing we can't handle. So we definitely want to assure you all that at home, that this will not be a devastating storm for us whatsoever. Matter of fact, if you want to kind of make lemonade with some lemons, we're going to have some very impressive rainfall totals, and that's exactly what we need since we're currently in drought concerns across the majority of Southwest Florida. So let's kind of time this out for you with our future track models. Idalia is still going to be well offshore of Southwest Florida later on this afternoon, and then it will continue to work its way to the north. We'll freeze frame it at about 7 p.m., still dealing with outer bands for us here in Southwest Florida. So tropical heavy downpours, locally gusty winds. Then you'll have a lull, and then we'll see round number 2, round number 3, and so on. That's just going to be the nature of the game for the remainder of your Tuesday afternoon, evening, overnight, and then gradually we'll see improving conditions in terms of precipitation tomorrow morning through the afternoon, but I do think the winds will remain fairly gusty. So this is about midnight tonight, late Tuesday, early Wednesday morning. Then as it continues to work its way north and east, it's likely going to take aim for the Big Bend. Once again, as I had just mentioned, anywhere between around 5 and 10 a.m., maybe around the lunch time frame, as a landfalling hurricane, likely going to be a major Category 3 storm with sustained winds upwards of around 125 miles per hour. So our friends to the north, especially north of Tampa, they definitely need to be taking this storm system seriously. We're taking it serious down here at Southwest Florida as well. The Week Weather Team, we're here for you continuously over the next many hours. So just stay tuned. Matt and myself, we will keep you updated with all of the latest information. So Wake Doppler 3X radar, this is a loop over the last hour. And boy, a couple of hours ago, that first initial pulse of those outer bands that are now currently pushing in towards Lake Okeechobee, heading towards southern Florida from Palm Beach, Broward, Miami-Dade County. So now they are currently dealing with the strongest of the storms. We're still dealing with steady, locally heavy rainfall, but I'm not seeing anything as of now that warrants any sort of severe weather. Great news. Let it rain. Let it rain all day. That's exactly what we need, just not heavy in the same spot so we don't have flooding concerns, but definitely helping us out with the drought. As of now, you're seeing areas in central and southern Collier slowly beginning to get a break from the rain. And as we've been mentioning, that's exactly what we expect to happen today. Areas of scattered rain and thunderstorms on and off throughout the day. Pockets of moderate to heavy rain currently taking place on the west side of Lake O from Moorhaven south and into the Clewiston area. Do I need to toss back to the desk, guys? Was that a toss back? Okay, so we'll continue to just give you a loop of radar and let you kind of see what's happening, who's getting the rain, and who's getting the heaviest of it. But as of now, let's toss things back to the desk with Chris and Amanda.
All right, thank you very much, Greg. I want to go back out to one of our crews that's in Charlotte County, the closest in the Wink News viewing area to where the storm will impact.
Yeah, Wink News reporter Claire Galt has been on Manasota Key all day. What's it like out there, Claire?
Well, Chris and Amanda, as you can see, the wind is really picking up. I'm having to hold my hood on here. We're still seeing rain, drizzling rain, and I want to direct you to look at the ocean over here. You can see there are some boys playing out there, but those waves, they're really choppy. They keep getting choppier. They're growing. For a while, we saw the tide really coming in a lot. It's kind of slowed down a bit. There's a little bit of a calm before the storm, I guess you could say, but a lot of people are still out here watching, spending time together, kind of just waiting in the hours before it could get worse. Hopefully not too bad. I've been talking here to Paul. He has been here all day with me, just watching the storm. All day, right, Paul?
Yes, all day.
Paul, why have you been here all day with me?
Because I love this stuff. I love the waves. I just love the rough weather. You know, I mean, I do. I worked on offshore oil rigs years and years, another lifetime, and I mean, it sounds awful, but we used to love the storms out there. You might get 40-foot waves out there, but this, I mean, everybody likes it. Come on, look at this. People up and down here. They might not admit they like it, but they do.
Well, Paul, I know you told me, you know, a bit of why you're so relieved is because this isn't going to be anything like Ian. And I know you said a lot of your neighbors had a lot of destruction, saw a lot of damage, and are still struggling. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a guy across the street from me, they said he had flood damage, and our street did not flood that bad. I got pictures during the storm and after it, and they said, you got flood damage, and he's still fighting them, you know. What is it, a year later? It's ridiculous, but gotta hire a lawyer, you know, and just go through all the channels, I guess. I didn't do bad. I didn't even lose my power. So God felt sorry for me probably, but you know, a lot of them were way worse than me, but it's just the way it was. But just like I said, diagonally across the street, his roof got a hole in it, and that was all. That was one day, and then it just beginning right in the morning, I think he said, and it just ruined everything, the walls, and they tried to say it was flooding, and you know, we didn't flood that bad. You know, the street flooded, but nowhere near the houses. So
yeah, and I know we're expected to see about 3 to 5 feet of storm surge here in the Englewood, Manasota Key area. Does that concern you at all, or are you just relieved that this is going to be better this time around?
Well, I moved from Rotunda to Northport, and I says, all right, I'm in a no flood zone. I don't need flood insurance. But after last year, it's like, well, it might not be such a bad idea, you know. things are changing and things, but, you know, I'm still a little leery. You know, I might get it, I might not, and probably decide I need it when it's too late. Like most people, you know.
I know a lot of people are in the same boat. How long are you going to stay out here today? Are you going to keep watching the storm with me? What are you going to do?
Well, for a little while. I got to go home and feed the kids. 2 parrots and a cat. That's it. So I'm not being neglectful.
Got to keep the cats and the parrots safe, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And if they tell you to evacuate, evacuate. Because all you do is, I sat out here and basically you watch a house fall apart. And there's nothing you can do. So, you know, go somewhere where it's nice, because there's nothing you can do about the damage. So why sit there and watch it when you can be in a comfortable room somewhere? Seriously, I mean, it's not fun. So, I mean, next time, I'm leaving. It's like, pack the kids up, see you later, I'll come back, because whatever's going to happen is going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it.
Good advice, Paul.
It stops being fun.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, thank you.
If we were going to get hit again, I'd have been out of here last night.
Absolutely, and I know.
I like this stuff.
All right, Paul. Well, thank you so much.
Hey, have fun.
Yeah, and like you heard him say, stay safe, everybody. Stay indoors. Keep watching Wink, and we'll keep you updated with the latest. Thanks.
All right, Claire, thanks. Some practical information here. The Lee County School District has announced that school will be closed tomorrow. They will announce if they can reopen on Thursday at 3 o'clock tomorrow. That includes the Oasis Charter Schools in Cape Coral. Schools in Charlotte and DeSoto counties will also be closed tomorrow. Classes are still in session in Collier, Henry, and Glades. We'll let you know if that changes. FGCU has announced they're going to remote classes for the second time tomorrow. Some video now from inside Aubrey Rogers High School in North Naples as kids sheltered in place from a tornado warning. This is about 2:15 this afternoon. We had several schools in this condition. You see them sitting there in the hallway. That was standard. Get them away from the windows, get them away from the doors. All of the buildings, as far as we know, did okay. The power didn't even go out. Live pictures now, the Sunshine Skyway Bridge up near St. Petersburg. You can kind of see the camera shaking in the wind just a little bit, but the important thing here right now is that the cars are going over this bridge. This is one of the bridges that actually does literally close when it gets too dangerous to go over it. They will barricade this bridge off because it's just too dangerous to be up there on this very long bridge near St. Petersburg. But right now, the winds are building in the Tampa-St. Pete area, but traffic is still moving. Again, when that changes there, we'll let you know.
Yeah, you can see the white caps on the water there, too, and that camera is definitely shaking around a bit. And you know how that bridge is. It's scary on a normal day.
If you're not a bridge person, yeah,
exactly. That is a
tough.
high bridge. So we'll let you know when they close it, because I'm sure that they will at some point. We have some more video from around the area. Let's take you closer to home to St. James City. Some flooded streets here at the end of Tropical Point in St. James City. So thank you very much to our Wink News viewers who have been our eyes and ears in addition to our crews on the ground, giving us a glimpse of what's happening in all of these neighborhoods. If you can safely, please continue to email your footage and your pictures to tips@winknews.com. We really appreciate being able to see what you're dealing with. I want to take you to Matlacha, and we saw in Zach Oliveri's live shot about where the water was on the docks, and it checks out and is verified in these pictures as well. You can see the water levels have risen there. We'll see if things, calm down as the tide's going out. But another picture there, a view here from Matlacha.
Let's check another part of Matlacha, and this we've been really noticing in some different parts. On Pine Island in different places, St. James City, this is Matlacha, the water right up to the backs of some of these homes. This came in about 1:30 this afternoon. Again, we'll have high tides going down, tides going back up later, so we'll be monitoring a lot of these neighborhoods, but that is about as high as you want that water to be.
And we have some video from Scott Decker on Marco Island. We talked with him back in 2017 during Irma, as a matter of fact. And this is the wind during the tornado warning right around 2 o'clock this afternoon. Matt Devitt showed some of this to you as we were getting this footage in, but high building, and you can see the wind wrapping around the building, and it looks like white out there from the rain coming down, and especially at the time of day this happened, right around 1:30 to 2 o'clock. But you can see the intense rain and that wind really gusting there this afternoon during that tornado warning.
Yeah, we have some more video that Scott sent us. Also Marco Island in the ship's landing area around the same time. And you can just see how intense it was at the beach, and you can kind of hear the rain and see the waves there. Remember, that's the Gulf of Mexico. We don't usually see The palm trees tell the story there. We don't usually see this kind of current in the water, but we did today, this afternoon, around 2 o'clock on Marco Island, and we'll be watching. We have crews there too, watching to see if that changes back anytime soon.
Yeah, not far. We have some footage from Isles of Capri of the waves, being churned up by that wind. And it looked like all the boats, were obviously tied down very well. Everything looked secure. And thank you so much again for sending in some of this video. But these are the waves in Isles of Capri.
We'll be checking in area by area throughout the rest of the evening tonight, and we'll be checking in with our weather team coming up next.
Protection with
Hurricane Idalia, as we continue to check in with our crews that are spread out, fanned out, especially in our coastal communities of Southwest Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been hearing from crews up and down the coast who are starting to see obviously we've seen the feeder bands. I'm sure where you are, you've had the rain. We had earlier in Collier County, we had some of the tornado warnings. The high tides and the rising tides, I think, are going to be one of our prevailing issues between now and maybe 12 hours from now. So we're going to be watching those closely in a lot of different neighborhoods.
Yeah, and as we're just starting to see the effects moving into our area, we're starting to see kind of a tale of different stories. Some of our crews are in a little bit of a break right now. Some are seeing the rain and the wind start to pick back up again.
These are live pictures of Billy Creek, downtown Fort Myers, kind of right behind where we are right now. And that is certainly higher than a normal high tide. And it's not even, the high tide is past downtown in Fort Myers by a little bit, so it's going down. but that is higher water than we're used to seeing, even on some of our stormier afternoons in the summer along Billy Creek downtown.
Yeah, Matt talked a long time about how it would be the combination of the moon, the tides, and the storm, obviously. Another view here, this is the Naples Pier, where you can see the waves crashing up, but you can see where the tide has gone back out.
And one of the most notable things about this picture, as opposed to a couple of hours ago, is most of the people that were out and around have rightly left.
Still see a couple people there, though.
Still a couple, and hopefully they'll leave soon because, you know, even though this is not a direct hit, it's still not a good idea to be in and around that current. So we're going to keep an eye on especially beach erosion and rising water in various different areas along our beaches.
And of course, so many areas in Southwest Florida are still recovering. So we want to make sure that we're checking in with folks who have homes that were still under repair, see how they're going to weather the storm.
Yeah, we've heard a couple stories already of people who have discovered leaks with their tarps and things like that. As we talk about all this rain, and we do obviously need the rain overall, there are a lot of folks who don't need a single drop right now because...
Exactly, and when you still see all of that debris too on places like Fort Myers Beach, you hate to see that get picked up and kicked around.
It's going to test some of the Ian repairs, I think, too, and we'll make sure we're all watertight. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt now.
Okay, so here's the very latest in terms of the core and the track of the system as it is continuing to work its way to the north. We have about 200 miles of breathing room. And I do want to show you that just for some extra peace of mind. Still not expected to come here, no big changes there. And again, about 175 miles to 185 miles off the shore. But this is a true testament to the power of this thing. Even though it is that far away, we are seeing the outer bands coming in from the south end, pushing to the north on what is referred to as the dirty side of the system. No surprises here, continues to go in its general line. So there was the 2 p.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. And look at that accuracy. It is right in the middle, and it hasn't wobbled, it hasn't deviated around from that center line. So that basically means that this is business as usual, and we will continue to not have a direct impact from this system. What we are seeing are these outer bands as they continue to work their way in from the south. And let's kind of zoom on in, and we'll go interactive and show you where we have these areas of some heavier rain. Nothing significant for Charlotte, into Lee, in Collier County. The worst of the weather is now passing by Lake Okeechobee and extending towards Lake Placid as well as Arcadia. But just for some peace of mind here, let's take it down into Collier County as well as into Lee County with these off and on bands where the rain becomes steady and picks up. And that has been the case as well for our viewers in Arcadia as well as Port Charlotte. Now, earlier when we had those stronger squalls, we had winds upwards of about 40 to 60 miles an hour, whipping some things around. The rainfall that we've had, beneficial. Let's not have this too fast because then we're going to have some flooding. But let me just kind of sample some of these observations. Upwards of about 1 to 2 inches of rain embedded, and look at that, even a core of 3 inches so far, and the system is not even parallel to Lee and Collier counties. So here's the core of it, still flaring up showers and storms. It hasn't rapidly intensified yet, but it's been a slow and gradual intensification as it's working its way across the Gulf. Here's that wind field, about 230 miles wide in diameter. That's that shading of yellow. And then that little part right there, that's almost one of the biggest misconceptions when you see, I want to show you this next graphic, when you see this, that maximum wind, now let me take you back to the previous graphic, it's only a small part of the storm. That little sliver right there, that is the 90-mile-per-hour wind. Now, if you get hit by it, it's going to be significant, and that's what they're expecting for the Big Bend. But I just want to, sometimes there's a misconception that that 90 is for the whole storm. It's actually only a small little part. The pressure has been lowering at about 974 millibars, and it is pushing to the north at 15. For a reference, there is Ian on the left last year. You don't need me to tell you this. Slow, drawn out. The slow motion allowed the water to pile up. It made landfall at 9 miles an hour. It's one of the slowest we've ever had in terms of hurricanes. The expectation with Idalia at landfall will be twice as fast at 17 miles an hour, and already it's moving at 15. I had a wonderful wing viewer that told me, and the joys of doing things here live, We have fixed the spelling of catastrophic. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Right now, it is at 90 miles an hour, Category 1. The current forecast is for it to be a Category 3 with devastating impacts on the way, unfortunately, for the Florida Big Bend. So here is the current forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center. I do want to zoom on in, and the overall thinking has not changed. It's going to be the Big Bend, as they will be dealing with potentially a major hurricane. Here are the models yesterday. Here are the models now. You know, they've gone back and forth left and right a bit, but are still showing that general area. Wind speeds right now, nothing bad. You know, about 10 to 20, but in the squalls, that's where it gets gusty. Let me take you live. Show me Sanibel. Was showing me a second ago. Maybe not. Ah, there you go. Fashionably late. As you can see, the wave height's kicking up, and it has to do with that wind coming in from the Gulf, forcing the waves up, and you can certainly see the palm trees as well going left and right. This is going to be the tide level right along the Sanibel Causeway. Obviously, the construction's still ongoing. And then the tide levels are up. You can see the water right about there in Cape Coral. The storm surge projection, I do expect us to maximize at our storm surge. What we already saw, that was kind of round number 1. I believe the more significant storm surge would be as we hit midnight all the way to 6 a.m. and sunrise. At least the highest, I shouldn't say significant, but the highest. Okay, so that's when the 2 to 4 foot potential would be between midnight to 6 a.m. There's the peak, and then gradually improving as we go throughout the course of your Wednesday. You saw the tornado warnings earlier into Collier County. We still maintain that potential all the way through sunrise on Wednesday, and then a gradual decline as we hit Wednesday afternoon and evening. So here's how everything plays out. It will be due west and parallel to southwest Florida as we near sunset. And then by midnight, it is going to be offshore, and you can see that due west of Tampa Bay and Clearwater before it does make its eventual landfall north of Cedar Key, and really anywhere within this area as we hit tomorrow morning. By the way, if you got friends and family up the coast, these are the future track wind gusts. You can see near the core, you see a couple 100s pop up. That is that strong, devastating wind that will lead to widespread power outages for that portion of the state. 2 to 4 foot storm surge expected for us as we go up the coast. Life-threatening storm surge, 10 to 15 feet on the way for that area in pink. Tampa Bay is expecting about 4 to 7. For reference, that forecast of 10 to 15, this is the all-time list of highest storm surge across the state of Florida. That one up there, that was a 185, Category 5 in the Keys near Isla Mirada, 20 feet. Then there's Ian at 15 feet, Andrew at 16. They are expecting 10 to 15 feet with this approaching hurricane. I want to continue to go through this. This is a very important graphic. The higher tides, 2 to 4 feet expected between midnight and sunrise. This is Charlotte County. Let me take you into Lee County, downtown Fort Myers, about 5:40 a.m. Matlacha, I've already been seeing videos of some water up already. 441 is your peak, 2:35 for Sanibel, and then for our friends in Collier County, about 12:45 to 1 a.m. in Naples, Marco Island 1:45, Everglades City about 3. You can always get these Wink Weather updates by downloading our free Wink Weather app. It's free. You don't have to pay a dime, and it will have Southwest Florida's most powerful radar. So let's switch back over now to Wink Live Doppler 3X. If you're just tuning in and just joining us, once again, let's get you the very latest. Core of the storm is going to be avoiding us and heading to the north. And I actually would like to show you, if you don't mind giving me about 10 seconds here, I would like to show you, and here it is right here, how significant this is up the coast of Florida. These are the strongest storms ever recorded for the Florida Big Bend. And if the forecast does come to fruition of 125, that would be the strongest hurricane that portion of the coast has seen since 1896. Quick math, it was about 127 years ago. So that is how rare something like this is for the Florida Big Bend. I hope they heeded the warnings. I hope that they evacuated if they were told to do so. This system means business. It's not our storm, it's their storm, but as you can clearly see, we are still monitoring these outer bands. Guys?
All right, thank you very much, Matt. You know, you feel for them going through what we went through and knowing what is headed their way. You start to feel for those folks in those small towns, Perry, Cedar Key. So we'll be praying for them, and of course, we'll continue to follow it as it makes landfall. Meantime, here at home, tens of thousands of you still have open claims from Hurricane Ian. Now with Hurricane Idalia on the way, you may be in for home and more insurance problems with your home. Wink News consumer reporter Andriana Shepard is with us. Andriana, what should people with Hurricane Ian damage do to get ready for any potential Idalia damage?
Now, insurance experts say do the best you can to keep any damage from getting worse, but I know that's hard with all that rain. And if the damage does get worse, get ready to file yet another claim.
So far, I don't have any roof leaks, but how many more storms before my roof starts to leak?
These worries you've heard and felt in the months struggling to get your house back together after Hurricane Ian.
Well, it's always in the back of your mind when another storm's coming.
If it still keeps raining in now with rainy season coming, the house is going to be totally destroyed.
We're getting downpours now that it's just goose drowners. I'm thinking, what's next?
That all may become a reality, and soon. Southwest Florida is expected to feel Idalia.
Everybody that I've talked to in this area has had some sort of issue. So I don't want to go through it again.
June data from the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation shows close to 68,000 of you still have open homeowners insurance claims, which means your homes may experience even more damage not even a year after Ian. Mark Friedlander with the Insurance Information Institute says any new damage brought by Idalia means a new claim with your insurer, even if it made Ian damage worse.
It's not an add-on to your existing claim. No matter what the condition is of your home, what the state is of your claim from Ian last year, this is a new storm. It's a new event, completely new event, regardless of the condition of your home today.
So Friedlander says get your phones out and document the condition of your home just like you did about a year ago. Take plenty of pictures and keep the records of your Hurricane Ian damage and repairs handy,
so that you could very clearly show this is what the condition of my home was before the new hurricane struck the area, and show it wasn't complete yet. You still had a tarp on your roof. You still had other repairs that are in motion. You want to make sure that's carefully documented.
What about those of you who had UPC after Hurricane Ian and are struggling to find insurance since your home isn't fixed? Ask the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation what you're supposed to do if you need to file another claim. A spokesperson didn't directly answer my question. Instead, they gave me tips on filing insurance claims. I followed up and asked my question again, and no response. Back to you.
All right, Andy, thank you very much. We keep monitoring the different areas. Live pictures here. This is the Sanibel Causeway. The construction has been an issue, but we see the cars going over it okay. And again, as long as we don't have sustained winds in the 40 to 45 mile an hour range, the mayor told us earlier today he was confident in the causeway, although there are some concerns because it's under construction, and it's probably a good idea with the low water on the inland side of that near Bunch Beach and everything to just stay out of that area if you can. Meantime, we have more on Idalia as it continues to move along our coast.
Yeah, Wink News reporter Michelle Alvarez is live on Marco Island now. So what is it like where you are?
Yeah, Amanda, we're at Tommy Barfield Elementary where a confirmed tornado made landfall just after 1 p.m. today. We arrived here in the last 30 minutes, so no car line or no parents, as school did get out a couple of hours ago, and things seem pretty calm over here. But as I mentioned, we were under a tornado warning earlier, and that includes students and staff here at Tommy Barfield Elementary. Collier County Public Schools said students were with staff and sheltered in hallways away from windows when the tornado hit. They waited things out, I should say, and waited for the warning to pass until students were eventually dismissed for the day. Now, I did talk to one woman who said she feels ready for whatever comes our way, but she can't help but think of others.
I get most concerned about people that have health issues, especially those that are dependent on dialysis and, respirators, and if they lose electricity, I mean, that's so critical that they have those things available to them. For our safety, you know, I prepared a closet that we can crawl into in case there's a tornado, but we're ready. We have the water, we have the essentials, and we'll make it through it.
As I mentioned before, things are pretty calm here at Tommy Barfield Elementary. Not a lot of people around, no one I've been able to speak to anyway yet, but you can tell that there was a lot of rain here because a lot of areas around the school are flooded. But once again, we will continue to monitor the weather here and we'll continue to update you both on air and online. For now, reporting live on Marco Island, Michelle Alvarez, Wink News.
All right, Michelle, thank you. That was the first school where they had the students in the hallways during the whole tornado warning just to make sure they were safe. And again, everybody, as far as we know, everybody's fine.
There's still people there on the Naples Pier as we head into break. Thank you for tuning in to Wink News. Stick with us. We'll continue to take you through everything our neighborhoods are seeing as we continue to track Hurricane Idalia. Causeway take.
Let's take some live pictures of the Causeway now as we can see the car still kind of moving across it. We've been digging into those concerns. Kelly, you finally got an update today from FDOT. What did they have to say?
Yes, so FDOT officials told me they have taken steps to secure all construction sites on and around the Sanibel Causeway. They also said if the storm affects the area, they don't expect any major impacts to the causeway. Now, earlier we heard from the Sanibel mayor. He spoke to Liz Biro, and he said he isn't worried about the causeway either. However, take a look at these photos from the Sanibel Fire District. It kind of gives you a glimpse into the causeway. This is the start of the causeway heading into Sanibel, and as you can see, it's quite a hazardous area, especially with those wind gusts and lots of rain. So take this into account if you are considering getting on that bridge today or tomorrow. Now, after Hurricane Ian, crews put a temporary fix in place and are still working on a permanent structure. Right now, about 80% of the materials that protect the road and bridge approaches, like sheet piles, have been installed. FDOT said these enhancements were designed to exceed the strength of the bridge before Hurricane Ian's impact. Now, the bottom line is the bridge is essentially a construction zone right now, and our local leaders advise anyone who doesn't feel safe or fears being trapped on the island to leave before it's too late. Here's another live look at the bridge right now. Now, Wink News reporter Liz Biro, again, she's out in Sanibel and will provide live updates from the field all day. For now, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Kelly. And like you heard, they're confident that you can drive over it, but they're also saying it's best not to drive at all in these conditions. We're still expecting tropical storm conditions in our area.
Yeah, and you saw the water at the base of the bridge. What you can't see from there is there's a lot of water issues too on the inland side of that near Bunch Beach, on John Morris, on Summerlin, right there where the old outlets are, and a lot of low-lying areas like that around here that usually get water in the streets along Fowler and Fort Myers. We're hearing different reports. You got to expect there's going to be standing water in the roads, and it's going to be hard to get around.
That's right. And if it's, people who are trying to sightsee during a time like this, you want to stay inside. You want to let the emergency crews and any work crews be able to do what they need to be able to do out on the roads, and us to stay inside.
Yep. Let's check in with Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris and Amanda, they were saying it exactly right. If you don't need to be out today, just stay off the road, stay inside, hunker down, enjoy the day. Matter of fact, I can guarantee you at least 20-30% of you are throwing a tropical storm party today. Hey, I know that's just what Southwest Floridians do, but we are still dealing with some impacts from Hurricane Idalia that's churning off the southwest coast of Florida. And one of those impacts, and this is what we were expecting to happen this afternoon, was some minimal storm surge and or some flooding, potentially 1 to 3, upwards of around 2 to 4 feet of storm surge can be expected later on this afternoon, overnight tonight, and into your early Wednesday morning, thanks to those winds that are going to be swirling from the southwest. Check out this ominous looking cloud deck. This was taken earlier this afternoon in the Clewiston area. Huge shout out to Wink News viewer Anthony Nairhood for sending this one in, and to all of the viewers that are sending in videos, that are sending in footage, that are sending in pictures. We love them. That gives us an idea of what's actually currently happening out there, and then we can relay those to you. So that's definitely a very good looking shelf cloud. Basically, you got a strong thunderstorm heading your way. This one might make you a little bit dizzy, but boy, this was a great looking video. Tropical downpours, tropical storm force winds. This is what we were expecting today. Now we got it on video. We're relaying it to you. Wink Loyal News viewer sent this one in out of the Fort Myers beach earlier this afternoon. I know it's kind of shaky. It might give you a little bit of, slow it down. But this is what's been happening across Southwest Florida over the last couple of hours as those outer bands, those feeder bands from Idalia, continue to churn its way through the area. So we've definitely seen some pretty impressive wind gusts, locally heavy winds, and downpours over the last couple of hours. So definitely thank you for sending those in, and we'll continue to relay those to you, the public, as soon as you get them into us here at the Weather Authority. As of the 2 p.m. update, the 5 p.m. update should be coming in any minute. Typically, the National Hurricane Center will update it about 5 to 10 minutes in advance, and we're expecting it at 5 p.m., so it'll likely come in within the next couple of minutes. As of the 2 p.m., 90-mile-per-hour sustained winds, that movement 15 to the north, so that is good news. Still expecting that landfall impacts sometime early Wednesday morning. So future track winds. This was one of the things that's going to deliver the storm surge, one of the larger impacts that we'll likely feel locally in Southwest Florida. Now, we did start off with an offshore wind this morning, generally south to southeast. So it was literally pushing the water offshore. Now that the winds are beginning to transition from the south and into the southwest, that's going to continue to help push that water up across our coastline, which is going to continue to enhance our storm surge impacts for the remainder of your Tuesday afternoon, evening, overnight, and into early Wednesday morning. Now, tomorrow morning, 3, 4, 5 a.m., it's going to be swirling off the Tampa Bay area and then likely taking aim once again for the Big Bend sometime tomorrow morning. We've been saying here at the Weather Authority anywhere between around 5 and 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So future track, let's kind of just play it out for you, quarterback you through it over the next couple of hours. We'll still likely be dealing with pulses of those outer bands. So that's basically going to be the story for today. We'll have very heavy tropical downpours, very gusty winds, and then it'll go calm for a little bit, and then we'll see another round of those downpours, and so on and so forth. And that's literally just going to be the name of the game for the next 12 to 24 hours until Idalia continues to swirl north and northeast overnight tonight and into your tomorrow. But even on tomorrow time frame, we're still going to be talking about those wraparound showers and thunderstorms. The heaviest of the rain will likely occur today. We got slammed earlier this afternoon. Matt was live for about an hour and a half covering tornado warnings in Collier County. We won't be dealing with the heaviest of the rain tomorrow. We'll continue to be dealing with scattered storms, but the heaviest of the precipitation is currently happening now for us here locally in Southwest Florida. But as this thing heads to the Big Bend in Northwest Florida, essentially from about Carabel, there's St. James Island, Cape San Blas, two beautiful areas in Apalachicola. They are likely going to get slammed with very heavy winds and very high storm surge as well as this thing works its way to the north and east. You can see those expected future track wind gusts anywhere from upwards of around 100 to 110 plus miles per hour late tonight and into early tomorrow morning. But what about us here locally? How long and how strong are the winds going to remain across Southwest Florida? So this is what we're expecting by around 4:30 current time frame. Gusts in excess 30, 40, 50 miles per hour. That will continue late tonight, tomorrow morning, especially along our direct coastline communities. So if you're in coastal Charlotte, coastal Lee, out towards Captiva, Sanibel, if you're on island right now, you all by far will be dealing with the windiest and the wettest weather conditions late tonight and into early tomorrow morning. Not to discount our inland communities and friends, they will still be dealing with gusty conditions. The strongest of the wind gusts will be directly impacting our coastline areas. And then as we wake up early tomorrow morning, 7, 8, 9 a.m., we're going to have that strong onshore wind. That's what's going to continue to intensify the storm surge impacts for us here locally in Southwest Florida. So that onshore wind pattern is going to continue through tomorrow afternoon, but notice the wind gusts as well will gradually start to subside after around 3, 4, and 5 p.m. tomorrow. So hang tight. We're kind of in the thick of things right now. This is exactly what we're expecting. Tropical storm wind gusts, 30, 40, 50, maybe 60 plus miles per hour in the heaviest of the locations, and also those tropical downpours. And that's what we're dealing with. And this is really nothing that we can't handle here in Southwest Florida. That's what both Matt and myself have been trying to reiterate over and over, is that if you are feeling a little bit anxious, if you are feeling a little bit nervous, hey, we are all still dealing with a little PTSD from Ian last September. As of now, this is not an Ian. This will not be an Ian for us. Will we receive heavy amounts of rain? Absolutely. Will we be receiving tropical storm wind gusts? Absolutely. Nothing that Southwest Florida can't handle. Matter of fact, if you can deal with the wind gusts, this rain amount, this is great news for us. We absolutely need these tropical downpours to help with our current drought deficits across the majority of Southwest Florida. But look what's happening over the last hour. You're actually seeing dry conditions, improving conditions across central and southern Collier County. Will this last all day and all night? No, we'll likely deal with another band of another round of those outer bands of rain and thunderstorms. Moorhaven, Clewiston, you all got slammed about 45 minutes or so ago, but you can just see how rapidly these rounds of rain are moving from the south to the north, essentially at about 30 to 40 miles per hour. So they are coming in fast, they are coming in hard, they are coming in heavy, and then they're out of there. and then you go through a little bit of a lull, and then you'll have round number 2 and so forth. That's basically going to be the name of the game for us here in Southwest Florida. Literally, pockets of Charlotte County right now, you're currently dry, no rain whatsoever. That wasn't the case an hour or so ago, and this is basically going to be the theme for the remainder of your Tuesday and into your early Wednesday. Areas of light to moderate steady rain across Lee County, North Fort Myers, downtown, out through Cape Coral, south through Iona, Captiva, Sanibel. Getting some showers, but nothing heavy, no locally heavy tropical downpours as of right now. Then we work our way south through Collier, coastal Collier County, from Vanderbilt Beach through Pelican Bay, Naples, extending south through Isle of Capri and Marco Island, where earlier you all currently had tornado warnings, and we did have that confirmed report of a tornado in the Marco Island area. So those were just some of the local impacts that we were expecting. So that's kind of a tour of what's happening right now on local radar. Let's zoom it out, kind of let you see the trend over the last hour. And if anything else pops up, both Matt and myself, we're in the Weather Center all night, continuous coverage. But as of now, let's toss things back to the desk with both Chris and Amanda. Guys.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Wink News is everywhere. We are trying to cover every community. Fort Myers Beach, of course, feeling the impact of this storm going by. Certainly ground zero for Ian. Lots of rain and floods there. We're going to check in with one of our reporters there in a little bit, but we know folks there are really taking this seriously.
Yeah, we had a lot of people in mobile homes there. We have a lot of people who have homes under construction. But thankfully today, and even as early as yesterday, we saw a lot of people leaving, a lot of people going over the bridge, seeking higher ground and moving inland.
And even a lot of the people that we spoke with yesterday who were still there said, you know, if it gets to the point where we need to go, we're ready to go. So we're going to check in with Wink News reporter Michael Hudak, who is on Fort Myers Beach for us. And Michael, you spent an awful lot of time there in the last year since Ian. How's everybody doing today? I apologize. We're having some issues with our live shot with him. We'll get to Michael in just a few minutes.
Of course, as the rain is coming down, as the wind is blowing, we're going to have some signal issues. So we want to ask for patience as we continue to go throughout the night and check in with our crews who are in the field, who are going to be in safe places and hunkering down as we head towards the overnight hours.
Yeah, one of the things the folks on the barrier islands are doing for sure is keeping track of the tides when the next high tide is, and we're going to hear more from Matt and Greg in a little bit as we look at this live picture of the Sanibel Causeway. That's as quiet as we've seen the Causeway.
Calm. It's dry.
Yep. Since we were on here this afternoon, a lot of people, I think, who are off the island for the duration of this have already left. People who were there for the day have probably gotten off the island. There's one person headed, looks like, toward the island. But clearly, people want to be, the worst of the tides that we're going to see are going to be later tonight and overnight. So this is a good time if you're seeing any area now where there's been a little bit of flooding and a little bit of high water. This is downtown Fort Myers, Billy Creek.
It's about where it was the last time we checked in.
Yep. Take it as a warning that there's probably a little bit more of this to deal with before we're all done.
Yeah, so the bears reminding again, try to stay off the roads as much as possible because you never know just how deep that water is when you get going, especially in places that are prone to flooding around Billy's Creek, downtown Fort Myers.
All the places that you're used to. You're watching Wink News. We'll be right back. Out, Hurricane Idalia is stronger. It is now a Category 2 storm. Hello again, everybody. I'm Chris Safadi.
And I'm Lois Tomey. Wink News is the weather authority. Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt joins us now. And Matt, this hurricane still has all the ingredients needed to strengthen even further, doesn't it?
That's right, and it will continue to strengthen all the way towards its eventual landfall. So here's the adjustment. Last advisory, it was at 90 miles an hour. Now it is at 100. So it has bumped up by 10 miles an hour. The pressure's at 972 millibars. Lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. As right now, it is actually starting to be due west of Collier County, and even more evidence that this will not be our storm. Okay, let me show you where it is right now within the Safford-Simpson scale. There's Category 2. The winds are of 100, and extensive damage is expected up the coast. So I would like to show you the forecast cone, and there are a few adjustments that I have just noticed very quickly. It looks like the National Hurricane Center, their earlier forecast today was 125 at landfall. Now they have chipped that down to about 115. I think anything's possible, but they have chipped their landfall intensity down from 125 to about 115, which is obviously wonderful news up the coast, but they are still dealing with a major hurricane expected as they hit tomorrow morning. Here's a zoomed in view of the forecast cone, and you can see how it continues to narrow in on the Big Bend as we hit Wednesday morning, and there's that 115. And here we are right here, and it is about 175 miles off of the coastline. So now let's zoom on in locally and show you exactly what we're dealing with, and there is going to be our Category 2. You can see the phase change. Let me show you that so far everything is kind of going according to plan. There haven't been any surprises. It's not deviating from where it should be. Let me move up the camera. You can see that, every now and then you'll get your wobbles where it may go a little to the left, a little to the right, but it's staying within the cone, and it also is very in line with the National Hurricane Center forecast as it continues to work its way through. So we don't get the landfall, but we certainly are feeling those impacts. Let me throw on all the radars that we have, and you can first off see that there are still some fairly intense squalls off of the coastline, and those are going to be rotating around the storm and generally heading due north. So especially for Sarasota County and towards Tampa Bay, they will see the bulk of these bands, but we still have more to our south. And look at these coming in south of Collier County. So that's going to be rotating around. We already had the multiple tornado warnings earlier today in Collier County, including the confirmed waterspout to tornado scenario that did do some damage. And let's take you even more south. So this basically, this quarter right here is what we can expect to rotate around the storm and eventually work its way in. So let's take you county by county. I'm going to switch back over to Wink Live Doppler 3X as we do have those areas of rain that have been working their way in. Let's put a little bit of a time lapse on it. And you can see those individual pockets of rain. We are getting wind reports that continue to flow in. I have Greg right now making a compiled list, and we will get you the very latest on what those wind reports are. So for some peace of mind, we have nothing severe at the moment. For Lee, Hendry, and into Glades County, yes, you're going to see some rain. Yes, you're going to see some wind. Nothing has been rotating, at least within these cells. And then as we take you into DeSoto County, we also have generally some light to moderate rain that has been passing by. Okay, so let's go big picture once again. I want to show you the situation at hand with some of these outer bands of showers and storms that are working their way in. And I do expect the worst part of the storm to still maintain about 150 to 200 miles off of the shoreline, but we will still feel those impacts as it works its way through. Here are the computer models down the coast, as there has been some fluctuation here and there, but still trending towards the Florida Big Bend. Locally, some of the wind speeds, they have been sustained at about 10 to 15 miles an hour and occasionally gusting to 20. That is sustained. We can take that, but those higher gusts at times have been even higher. I would like to take you live, and I'll finish off with this. Some of the conditions across Southwest Florida, the higher waves. We do eventually see our main surge window of time between midnight to sunrise on Wednesday. So coming up here within the next few minutes, what I'll do is I'll take you county by county and show you exactly when the high tide will be and indicate how much surge you could also see as well. Guys?
All right, Matt, thank you. Looks a little calmer behind him for Marco Island now. This is Fort Myers Beach a little while ago. Fort Myers Beach feeling the impact. Certainly, this is video from earlier this afternoon as those outer bands that a lot of us felt arrived, bringing flooding and rough surf to that area.
Yeah, Wink News reporter Michael Hudak was there at the time. He's live on Fort Myers Beach tonight. What are you seeing there now, Michael? It looks a lot calmer than it was earlier today.
Guys, somehow, some way, after this topsy-turvy day on Fort Myers Beach, the sun is shining once again. Earlier today, I showed you how much flooding was going on in Times Square on Fort Myers Beach. I'm happy to report that water is gone. And what is not gone are the locals that have showed back up here. And these are the Border Boys. Apparently, they're famous on TikTok, if anyone at home knows what TikTok is. Guys, what are you going to do now? We're going to get lit! Come on! And I guess they're, and he tripped and fell. Are you all right? You good? Okay, so those are the kind of people that are back out on Fort Myers Beach. Now, do I advise running around with all of this muck all around? Absolutely not. We've got some debris here that needs to be cleaned up, but overall today, it's been a positive day on Fort Myers Beach. People are, at this point, cautiously optimistic that everything is working out, including the woman who painted that pillar right there on Fort Myers Beach right before Idalia started to hit the Gulf Coast of Florida. I saw her up there in that lift painting that entire mural in the last moments that she had of sunshine and no rain. You will hear her story coming up exclusively on Wink News at 6 o'clock. Now reporting live on Fort Myers Beach, Michael Hudak, Wink News.
All right, thank you very much, Michael. Across the bridge from where Michael is, this is video of Doc Ford's Rum Bar and Grill, and you can see the high tide sent water onto the restaurant's dock and outdoor area. This is on San Carlos Island, of course, leading up to Fort Myers Beach. Things have receded a lot. It's looking a lot better there right now, too.
Yeah, they just reopened, so hopefully that's an easy clean for them.
Yeah.
Back to business. Within the last few hours, we've learned that Lee County schools will be closed tomorrow. That includes the Oasis charter schools. Here's a list of the other schools in our area that are closing tomorrow. Charlotte and DeSoto school districts are closed today and tomorrow. Again, Oasis charter schools in the Cape also closed. Henry Glades and Collier County, as of right now, are open. FSW is now closed tomorrow, and FGCU is once again holding their classes only online.
Sanibel Island was hit hard by Ian and is now feeling the effects of Idalia.
Wink News reporter Liz Byro live on Sanibel for us. Liz, I understand you're over by the lighthouse now, a landmark that was really damaged by Ian. How's it doing today?
Yeah, things are going well today, but they had extra parameters thanks to a collaboration between Lee County Natural Resources and Sanibel Natural Resources. Now, if you can see, there's the lighthouse, and then you go some paces over, and there's the Gulf. You know, while we're only forecasting 2 to 4 feet of storm surge on Sanibel on a barrier island, that's nothing to mess around with. So I spoke with Natural Resources Director Holly Milbrand, who explained to me that they actually, in the days before Idalia, brought some sand in to reinforce this area to make sure that it was extra hard and extra tough in case any, water came up. Now I want you to look down right now at the sand. On Sanibel, this sand is all natural. This is Sanibel's native sand, but after Ian, we saw a lot of erosion, and for one of its very few times in its history, Sanibel actually did have to bring in sand, like here at Lighthouse Beach and at 2 other beaches in particular. Those are Blind Pass and Turner Beach Park. Engineers estimated they would need around 70,000 tons of sand in those areas just to strengthen them back up. But they're not just for our enjoyment to make the beaches prettier, they also were for safety. Right off Blind Pass Beach is Sand Cap Road, which is an evacuation route. And this morning at around 11:20, the water went all the way from the beach up to Sand Cap Road, and the mayor and Holly Milbrand told me that's exactly what that sand was placed there for, to make sure that water did not go over the road. Now, I also spoke to Holly Milbrand about plans after Idalia for renourishment. She'll share that right now.
The city is currently planning for an island-wide beach renourishment project. That will also include continued filling in of remaining scours, and we expect that project to begin in November of this year. And will be about 400,000 tons of sand on Sanibel's beaches.
Yeah, and crews from the Natural Resources Department were also out yesterday, and this is when they survey the beaches, they take photos so that after the storm they can check losses. And Holly Milburn also shared with me, I mean, our beaches are prepared because these dunes, these plants, the way we take care of our beaches, they're prepared for storms. They're prepared for all these kinds of things. And that's why Sanibel has this native sand. We don't need to re-nourish it because we use plants as a way to protect our area. Live on Sanibel, Liz Byro, Wink News.
All right, thank you very much, Liz. And parts of St. James City on Pine Island saw some flooding today, too. This is video of the flooded grass and streets at the end of Tropical Point about 2 hours ago.
Wink News reporter Annalise Iraola is live in St. James City. Annalise, I understand you just got there. How's it looking?
Chris, yeah, we got here not too long ago, and as you can see from this road behind me, there's already quite a bit of flooding. I just spoke with a man who was on his bike. He was pedaling through here, and he told me that this is one of the roads in St. James City that happens to flood quite a bit. So he said it wouldn't be abnormal for this road to be flooded. It's not really an indicator. He said if you go along the other roads, which we have gone through the other roads, there's not quite as much flooding going on, but this road in particular, he said it floods pretty bad generally. But we were just driving through a couple of these mobile home areas around here, and one of the parks that we went into was just completely deserted. We ran into one man there who told me that, you know, he thinks that pretty much everyone has gotten out of his neighborhood at this point, but him and his family chose to stick around, and he told me that not too long ago during the high tides, the water was pretty much up to his shin level, and it had gone down by the time that we were talking to him, but he was saying, you know, he tracks the tide charts and he knows that another high tide is going to be coming in later this evening, and so that's really what he was saying that he was worried about. But as of the rest of his neighborhood, it's pretty much just him and his family holding down the fort over there. But we haven't talked to too many people as people have driven through here and talked to us as they've gotten, you know, through this bit of water. But we're really looking to talk to, there's actually someone pulled over on the road who we're going to talk to a little bit about their experience just now. But as you can see, you know, conditions here, currently it's not raining, the wind's not too bad, but we know that it's going to be coming in waves. So right now, not too bad in St. James City, but we'll definitely keep you updated as far as how things develop here further on. Live in St. James City, Annalise Iraola, Wink News.
Okay, Annalise, that's enough water. They don't need any more for sure.
Yeah, as long as it stays at a manageable level, we'll be good.
Right. Well, moving a little closer to the mainland, let's check on Matlacha, an area hit hard by Ian.
Wink News reporter Zach Oliveri's been there most of the day, joins us now live. Zach, that looks much better than when we were talking to you this afternoon.
Chris, yes, the rain has improved, but we are at the tip of the Matlacha Community Park where you can kind of see with my hair and everything going on that the wind has picked up a little bit in the last hour. But we did, since the last time we spoke to you all, we did go around and check on some of the street flooding that we were able to see earlier and speak to some more people who were actually going about their normal day. They're outside in their garage, they're walking their dogs. We have some people over here who were fishing earlier. People are starting to pick back up, but everyone's attention, and going real quick, going back to the street flooding before I move on, the street flooding has improved. Nothing that people can't drive through, so that's a good sign that we've seen in the last hour. But all eyes are on those seawalls. As you can see, it's close enough where you can see it splashing up, but it has not gone over, which is a huge sigh of relief for a lot of people as they continue to monitor that throughout the night. And when we were speaking with people earlier this morning, it was talking about the feel of Matlacha, because when we got here, people were going through their normal day routine. But with someone I spoke with, the owner of the fudge factory here on Matlacha, it was like almost two different mindsets heading into the storm.
There are people that are like, got their house back together there, and they think, oh, it's no big deal. And then there's other people frantically very stressed because they haven't been able to build back, or they're in the process.
That's been kind of the feeling we've been getting here throughout the day as people are worried about what their homes might be like as this storm was coming through, and others who are fortunate enough to rebuild were able to take this storm and kind of have a different approach here on Matlacha. So we'll see how the weather continues as we go throughout the day. Live on Matlacha, Zach Oliveri, Wink News.
All right, I hope it stays calm and the tides aren't too high there. All right, look at the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. This is the bridge that goes into St. Petersburg, Tampa area. Very high span bridge, very windy at the top on a normal day. So you can imagine what it's like today with Idalia coming through this area. So we'll keep an eye on that for you, but you can see traffic moving just fine right now. You're watching Wink News, continuing coverage of Hurricane Idalia.
Is we are getting you the very latest on Hurricane Idalia, now a Category 2, in reference to us as we analyze the very latest on this storm. It is in reference to Southwest Florida now, about 185 miles off of the coast as we zoom on in to the center of circulation. And if you're wondering why it looks incomplete, that is the range of our radar. Can only see so far into the Gulf. But what it is seeing, look at the last 5 to 10 minutes, picking up on a more pronounced eye wall on the eastern side. And that is going to be the worst part of the storm, which, as you saw a second ago, it is staying about 185 miles to our west. So I know there was a lot of apprehension when I had mentioned yesterday that it's not going to be our storm, it stays away. Well, live, we can confirm we have a lot of breathing room and it ain't coming here. But we are having the outer influence, these outer bands that are bringing in showers and thunderstorms. So let's kind of take a look real quick, county by county in terms of rainfall. Arcadia, Port Charlotte, some quick sampling you guys have averaged. And so far, everything really has gone according to plan in terms of rainfall. We were expecting about 1 to 3, and we are analyzing about 1 to 2. Same trend across Hendry, Lee, and into Collier County. Some quick sampling. We have had these pockets averaging upwards of about 1 to 2, even at times 3 inches of rain. Switching back over to radar with the very latest. A couple things to note. This batch is moving away. The bulk of this is going to be moving due north, and I'll show you that with a time lapse. And that is going to be spiraling around the hurricane. We have these individual showers, but the massive rain shield will likely be heading due north, and that would be pushing on shore for Sarasota County, Manatee County, and for our friends around Tampa Bay. So what we have right now, really not that bad. Some isolated showers, but now we have another squall that is pushing on shore, and that's where you can get these strong bursts of wind, and that is right now, I would say, moving to the north at about 35 miles an hour. So what we'll do is we'll stop the loop, and I'll time it out for you. So that is going to be working its way into a lot of Big Cypress, the Everglades, but here's the general timing with this one. And that's going to put it around Royal Palm Hammock, Everglades City, Ochapi, and Orange Tree within the next 60 minutes. Analyzing if we have any rotation, not seeing anything too suspect, but every storm is going to be analyzed just for the possibility for rotation, and we definitely had that earlier today. Okay, so the very latest on the storm, here's the infrared satellite imagery continuing to get healthier. If you look very closely, you can see the spiral and the swirl, and every now and then, right there, an explosion of storms, and if it continued to wrap that around, that could continue to allow the system to intensify. The wind field has been growing. The area in yellow, that is tropical storm force wind, that is still offshore of southwest Florida as it is working its way towards its eventual landfall. So here are the 5 p.m. stats, 100 miles an hour. The pressure's at 972 millibars, pushing to the north at 16. That does make it a Category 2. Once you hit Category 3 strength, it is 111 and above. The only significant adjustment that was made to the cone, and if anything is better news up the coast, but they're still dealing with a devastating situation, is it's gone from 125 to 115 for what the National Hurricane Center is expecting for its eventual landfall. And here's that zoomed in view. If you have friends and family within this area, and if they're near the coastline, please call them and make sure that they are inland. Life-threatening storm surge is expected. And this has been talked about on social media, so let's talk about it now. The possibility of some loop-around action. When you see these models, don't always focus on the worst case or the absolute devastating scenarios, because you can also factor in the other ones that curve it out. There are technically a few that shows recurvature towards Florida, but the majority right now are not showing that, and if that changes at any minute, I'll let you know. Wind speeds right now coming in from the south and southeast, sustained at about 10 to 20 miles an hour. These are the highest wind gusts we have had so far locally in southwest Florida. Fort Myers, Page Field, there's a 33, Punta Gorda 38, St. James City 42, Clewiston at 45, Immokalee, Everglades City in the mid to upper 40s, and then Ochapi hit 50 miles an hour with some squalls that went by. Consequently, we do have some power outages, and for right now, the highest density that I'm seeing is in Glades County, about 7,000 people without power, a couple hundred in other surrounding communities. So here's a live look across the area. I do want to take you to, there's always a quick 3-second delay. Let's punch up the Gulf. You'll notice eventually the waves kick in as well as some wind, and there you go. And there is that wind moving the palm tree left and right. And with that wind, as a force, it is pushing up the Gulf and creating some pretty angry surf. The storm surge will continue to rise. We do have a low tide this evening, and then we will be peaking between midnight to 6 a.m. and then gradually starting to decline as we hit the second half of your Wednesday. We had the tornado warnings earlier. I'm still going to maintain a solid opportunity for an isolated tornado or two. It's going to be elevated through tomorrow morning, and then just like surge, starts to decline as the system moves away for the second half of tomorrow. The threat levels overall averaging at about 2 to 3. We did note a second ago that we have about 8,000 people in Southwest Florida without power. Here's how things will go for the remainder of today. There's the core, there's the eye wall, 175 miles away from us, but we will see these wraparound bands by 9 o'clock, off and on, continuing all the way towards the midnight hour. There's the eye and the eye wall, and embedded within these cells, that is where rotation will be possible. If we have a tornado warning, the second I know is going to be the second you know. We will immediately let you know. Here's a look at about 3 and 4 a.m. And the one thing I'm just going to be closely watching into tomorrow morning, you can kind of see this. See these streaks? That sets up what we call training. It's rain over the exact same spots, and you can sometimes get these slivers of potentially upwards of half a foot of rain, just like that. And we will continue with these scattered storms off and on all the way into your Wednesday. The wind forecast, these are just the gusts. Your sustained winds are going to be lower than these values, okay? So this is just for a couple seconds when you get the squalls. Gusts, anywhere between by midnight and 1 and 2 a.m., 25 to 35 inland, but look at the coastline. That's where you could see at times the bursts of wind upwards of about 40 to 50 miles an hour. A windy start to tomorrow morning. Those are the gusts, not the sustained winds, but the gusts, and still kicking up the wind as we go throughout the day. Here's the wind computer model for the next 24 to 36 hours, showing a lingering chance for an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain, and then you have the higher totals as you go more north into Sarasota County. Life-threatening storm surge 10 to 15 feet for the Florida Big Bend. Our forecast is for 2 to 4 feet, and this is when you would likely see the highest water level rise and surge with this hurricane. Now, what you already saw, that was kind of the first round. The second round is going to be greater, and that's because we have our surge, our high tide coinciding with a full moon. It peaks tomorrow, and we're looking at 234 overnight for Englewood. Charlotte Harbor about 437. Let's take you into Lee County. 446 in the Cape, 441 for Matlacha. Sanibel Captiva about 230, 245. Coastal flooding is possible, but not to the extent of Hurricane Ian. As we hit about 12:45 a.m. and 1 a.m. for Naples, Marco Island 1:45, and then Everglades City at about 3. So here's your 7 and 10 day forecast. We would see some wraparound lingering effects for tomorrow, mainly during the morning hours. And then look at this. Hey, back to normal. We get to enjoy our Labor Day weekend. I'm certainly going to be doing that. 92 degrees as we highlight the start of next week. 92 degrees for Tuesday as we are back to usual Southwest Florida weather with the heat, the humidity, as well as a chance of rain. So that's the very latest on the storm. We're going to take a quick break and we'll come back with continuous coverage.
schools will be closed tomorrow. So again, Collier County announcing that public schools are closed tomorrow. Add to that Lee County schools, which have already announced that, including Oasis Charter. Charlotte County schools also closed tomorrow. We'll keep track of any additional closures and we'll get you the full list soon.
Tampa International Airport is shut down ahead of Idalia. The airport will stay closed until damage can be assessed. RSW is monitoring the storm. Just a little over an hour ago, the airport posted this message to their Facebook page. Most of the airlines at RSW plan to operate a normal schedule this evening and tomorrow. There have been changes on some flights with Breeze and Delta Airlines tomorrow, so check with them before you come to the airport. And we strongly recommend looking at your airline's website for the best information on cancellations and delays, as weather conditions can change quickly overnight. Check with your emails as well and updates, because they could be sent electronically to you.
We're tracking Idalia. We're going to take a live look at the Naples Pier here. Some folks still out on the beach. It looks nice out. It actually looks better out there than it has in the last little bit that we've been checking it. So folks back out enjoying the beach. That's not going to be the case for some of the northern counties. That's not even going to be the case for our area through the night. We have more rain to come. We have more high tides to come. We're going to be covering it all for you. Still ahead on Wink News.
He's not struggling with CPAP anymore.
Oh, that rest is working wonders for him.
Inspire. Learn more and view important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
Wink is tracking Idalia with Wink Doppler 3X and Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt for the very latest on Idalia and what to expect where you live. Turn to Wink, continuing coverage from the Weather Authority.
There's never been a better time to get away. With a great deal on the Hyundai you've always wanted. With America's best warranty and up to 3 years complimentary.
For sticking with us, I'm Lois Tomey.
I'm Chris Safadi. Let's check in now with Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt with the latest for us. Matt.
All right, so sounds good. If you're just tuning in and just joining us, pretty active day considering the higher tides, and that has to do with the south wind wrapping around the storm and also tag teaming with us nearing a full moon. So the tides were actually already up yesterday as it was 400 miles away, and we will be peaking with our highest tide levels later tonight. So we basically get a low tide this evening and then high tide between midnight and sunrise tomorrow. That's when I'm expecting most of the surge. But let's analyze this. Again, in reference to us, it is, let's do Marco Island, it is about 183 miles to our west. So that's how much breathing room we have. And it is physically impossible, I promise you, for this to make a hard turn to the right and go with a 90-degree angle. Now, the reason why something like that happened with Hurricane Dorian in 2019, remember that was the one that went to the Bahamas and then went due north? That was because it was stationary. This thing is moving at about 15 to 16 miles an hour, and it physically cannot just stop and then go due east. Just what we have in the atmosphere is not going to allow that to happen. It is wobbling a bit. Just a little bit, a couple miles to the east, but that's very typical. These will wobble, but you want to look for the average and the middle, which is that red line, and that is from the National Hurricane Center. So two areas in particular. We have the pop-up storms right now for Sanibel. Let's zoom on in for them. And there has been, at times today, some coastal flooding, some higher tides for Sanibel and Captiva, nothing to the caliber of Ian. Let's put a time lapse on it. As it has been coming in from the south and pushing to the north, a lot of fast movers that are being closely monitored for any type of rotation. Let's take you down the coast, as this is the more prominent band, and this one, a lot of rain as well as some gusty wind. Let's analyze some of the wind that is coming in. You know, I have maybe some small broad rotation there, but nothing suspect. The wind gusts could hit about 30, 40 miles an hour as it pushes on shore. Let's get you, if you have been kind of running around and just joining us, these are the stats as of the 5 o'clock advisory. 100 mile per hour wind, pushing north at 16, pressures at 972 millibars. And for a reference and a comparison, this system is moving twice as fast as Ian. When it made landfall, it was at 9 miles an hour. This one, it's at 16 now, 17 and even 18 by landfall. And unfortunately, if trends continue, this will likely be a storm that the devastation will be significant enough to be the 14th I-named storm to potentially be retired. Pressures at 972 millibars. Here's that forecast cone as we go into time, weakening as it approaches the Carolinas. And then you'll notice a big bulb here, a big circle. Computer models don't really know what to do with it around that point. We'll talk about that here in a second. But the highest probability of landfall, it's actually been shifting more west, goes anywhere from Apalachicola to Cedar Key, and especially the Big Bend. And you can see that with the various models as they have been clustering towards that part of the coast, which life-threatening storm surge is expected for them, 10 to 15 feet. And this actually could be the strongest hurricane that that part of our state has seen in 127 years. Guys?
All right, thank you very much, Matt. We want to take a live look right now at Cedar Key, where it is very calm. The calm before the storm, as they say, because they are very concerned about storm surge here and all the other effects that Hurricane Idalia could bring. It is expected to make landfall relatively near this area overnight into tomorrow morning, early in the morning. We'll continue to stay on air with you tonight for continuing coverage of Hurricane Idalia.
Google TV, download the Wink News app on your iPhone or your Android device, or, of course, join us here on television.
Well, different parts of Southwest Florida experienced flooding today from Idalia, especially at high tide, the first high tide cycle. This is Goodland near Marco Island. You can see the street flooding there. Of course, a lot of this has receded as the tides went down. We'll continue to watch all our areas, especially the Barrier Island areas where flooding tends to be a concern. And we'll be right back with more as we keep track of Idalia's path.
Very
and tell them to evacuate. This is life-threatening storm surge, and here's actually some of the highest storm surge ever recorded across our state in modern times. There's a Labor Day hurricane, 20 feet. There's Ian at 15 feet. There's Andrew at 16. And this storm could be up there on this list with that current forecast of 10 to 15 feet. Now for us, our type of storm surge is more 2 to 4. This is probably one of the more important graphics. I want to keep driving it home. This is going to be the window of time for the highest water level rise. And oftentimes in this situation in particular, Don Pedro Island can sometimes see a good amount of water cover the island. So please be aware of that. 2 to 4 feet of surge, Gasparilla Sound, about 2 a.m. into Lee County. There's downtown Fort Myers at about 5:40, Cape Coral, Matlacha, Captiva, and Sanibel. And then into Collier County, 3 a.m. for Everglades City, Marco Island at about 1:45 a.m. And for Naples, that is the time for your highest surge. So that's going into time. Let's go back to live radar and analyze what exactly is going on. As so far, so we had the earlier tornado threat. There's some severe weather around Miami. The only potential in the short term, if we were to see some severe weather, is going to be down here in Collier County with this batch of rain. So just for some peace of mind, let's look at multiple radars. First off, our own. And some of these squalls will be capable of, and let me analyze some of the wind speeds. So up in the storm, the winds are being analyzed at about 50, 60 miles an hour. And what can happen is these downdrafts in the storm can take some of that wind and then push it down to the surface. And that's when you get the squalls and the gusty wind. So the potential for that type of wind is there, but how much of it reaches the surface? Not seeing much in terms of rotation, at least embedded within those showers and storms. Let me double up and take a look at Miami. Nothing too suspect. This is the Miami radar. You know, I get a little conflict here, but nothing that would prompt a tornado warning, but that will be closely monitored as we go throughout the next few hours. Let's go farther north. More scattered showers and thunderstorms. Let's put a loop on it for Lee County, as a lot of these showers and storms are racing on by, skirting very quickly past Sanibel as well as Captiva. The rainfall today, I love this in the fact that we are battling a significant drought, and the drought, you know, we need 10 to 17 inches to get back to normal along the coastline, and the rain projection has actually gone according to plan so far as we have been, let me zoom on in. Some of the Doppler estimates have us in the light green and the darker green of about 1 to even 2, 3 inches of rain. This is all beneficial. And we're not done just yet. We have more chances for rain in the hours ahead. Let's do some more sampling into Lee County. And the way that I am is every single viewer is important to me. Everybody's equal. So that's why I like to go county by county to make sure that everybody knows not only what has happened, but what will happen in the future. Now here's a look at Collier County and some of the rainfall in excess of 2 to 3 inches, hugging the coastline, and then towards Immokalee and Ave Maria, we have had a few individual cells that have brought about an inch of rain. If you ever have a weather picture, feel free to send it to me. Doing my best going through them all, but Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or you can email me as well. The very latest on the cone, as well as the system as a whole, it's a Category 2. The max winds are at about 100 miles an hour, trying to have the eye peek out a bit. You see that little discoloration right there, maybe trying to clear an eye. We'll have to see that development as we go into time. The wind field right now is about 240 miles wide in diameter. The tropical storm force wind is still offshore, and the worst part of the storm is that shading of orange, which as we go into time, there it is, the red, the darker red, right smack dab in the middle of the cone, and that destructive wind is going to be making a beeline towards the Big Bend. So the stats, 100 miles an hour, the pressure's at 972 millibars. It is pushing to the north at 16, likely making landfall at about 17 to 18 miles an hour. Let's talk some local conditions. These are some of the sustained wind speeds that we have right now, and these are very manageable, and we will be fine in the short term. It just would be those squalls where every now and then the winds will pick up, and that was the case earlier. These are the Idalia wind gusts, choppy 50, Immokalee 48, Clewiston 45. These are some of the highest gusts so far. Then we also have Punta Gorda and Sanibel. You've had some occasional gusts of about 35 and 40, and this as well has fallen within the initial forecast for some of those higher gusts. Consequently, we have seen a higher concentration of people without power into Glades County, a couple hundred for other areas here in Southwest Florida, and collectively leading to 8.6, or at least about 8,000 to 9,000 people without power. Let's take you across the area, and it looks like we are seeing some improvement. This is some of the waterways in Cape Coral. That was about a foot or two higher a couple hours ago when we had some of the live coverage, so trending in the right direction. But again, here's the future track model. We'll kind of wrap it up with this. As you can see, the core, the worst part of the storm, it's going to stay in that. The theme for us, not going to be our storm. It will continue to stay away, will not make a hard right turn, will not make a 90-degree angle towards us. What we have in the atmosphere and the physics of it, it is going to be making its way towards the Florida Big Bend. It is their storm. They're going to get the maximum impact, but please keep it here to Wink. We have the very latest on the storm, the bands of rain. If we have any tornadoes, you will be immediately updated if that occurs. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be back in a few minutes.
mentioned, an actual tornado, a confirmed tornado, made landfall earlier. We are on the beach and there are plenty of people here, some even in the water, but winds are starting to pick up. Now, you can see the sun is peeking through the clouds right now, but as I mentioned, plenty of people on the beach, some of them in the water, and some surfers even enjoying those waves. Now, before coming here, we were at Tommy Barfield Elementary School in Marco Island, where a confirmed tornado made landfall just after 1 p.m. today. We were under a tornado warning earlier, including students and staff here at Tommy Barfield Elementary, and Collier County Public Schools said students were with staff and sheltered in hallways away from windows when the tornado hit. They waited things out and waited for that warning to pass until students were dismissed for the day. Now, I talked to one woman who said she feels ready for whatever comes our way, but she can't help but think of others.
Everybody's got to use some common sense. Yes. And listen and take appropriate action. But, you can't overreact, you can't underreact. You got to find some happy medium, and hopefully most people, I think, have.
We had the experience last year, the most recent, but unfortunately we left for safety's sake. But this isn't like that was, so we've decided to stay and we're ready, and we just wanted to come down to the beach and see what it looked like down here, and hopefully everyone is safe.
Yeah, that woman told me she hopes everyone is safe and is thankful for all the information that we are providing. And as I mentioned, the winds are picking up here at this beach on South Marco, and it's hard to even keep my hair in place, but I'm going to take a look now. I'm going to show you how many people right now are at the beach. A lot of people here visiting, most of them live here and tell me that they're not going anywhere. Now, a lot of these people did evacuate 11 months ago for Hurricane Ian, but once again, they tell me they are staying in place and are staying as ready as they possibly can. For now, reporting live on Marco Island, Michelle Alvarez, Wink News.
All right, Michelle, thank you. And bottom line, all of the kids who were held over at Barfield and all Collier County schools were fine when they were let out after the warnings expired.
Right, and no school for them tomorrow.
And no school for them tomorrow. Right. We'll continue in 90 seconds.
Increases in intensity. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lois Tomey.
I'm Chris Safadi. Wink News is the weather authority, so let's get right over to Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt, who's closely monitoring the hurricane with our weather team.
And I would like to start off at least with some good news. So the core of the system is at its closest point it will ever be to Southwest Florida. And that closest point, let's kind of do it interactively. As I measure this out, it's at really our closest point, and it is going to be right now offshore about 150 miles. So it is at its closest point to Southwest Florida, reaffirming the direct impact, the highest winds, the maximum impact. It stays away. It will continue to the north. Unfortunately, a different story for our friends around the Big Bend. They will be getting this time the worst part of the storm, And I've had some wobbles from time to time, but nothing alarming. Will not pull a hard right turn and a 90-degree angle towards us. It is physically impossible. It cannot happen with its current rate of speed pushing to the north at 15 and 16 miles an hour, okay? The physics of it, it can't happen, okay? So just for some peace of mind here. Now, you're gonna see these wobbles from time to time, but you wanna look at the average. So within this cone, and this is one of the only cases where I want to put on the center line, just to show you that there has been a wobble to the right.
Whether the eye wall's hitting you or not, so please prepare for that. It is going to be a significant impact to that region of Florida. Now, if you are in an evacuation zone and you've been directed to evacuate, particularly if you're in a low-lying area or coastal area in that Big Bend region, now's the time to do it. You still have a little bit more time. If you wait much longer, by the time we get in further into tonight, the weather's going to start getting nastier and nastier, and we're looking at an impact of the eye wall arriving sometime tomorrow morning. So you really got to go now. Now's the time. If you don't, if you stay hunkered down tonight, it's going to be too nasty tomorrow morning to be able to do it. Now, if you do choose to stay in one of the evacuation zones, first responders will not be able to get you until after the storm has passed. That's right, they're not going to be able to get there till after the storm has passed. So please make decisions that are best for you and for your family. And remember, you don't need to travel hundreds of miles away. You don't need to outrun the storm. Simply getting to higher ground in a shelter, with friend's house, hotels, any of that will work. A lot of times you can do that within your own county, but you certainly are thinking more about traveling tens of miles rather than needing to do hundreds of miles. The National Hurricane Center advisory includes that if this storm hits at high tide, storm surge could reach 10 to 15 feet in some areas of the Big Bend. That is life-threatening storm surge. That is storm surge that if you're there while that hits, it's going to be very difficult to survive that. So please take appropriate precautions. We do have counties, a total of 28 counties have now issued some form of evacuation orders, including more recently Alachua, Hamilton, Leon, Nassau, Putnam, and Sumter. Know your zone on that. Typically, these are going to be zones A. Some will be zone A and B. And if you're in an area, certainly the coastal areas, barrier islands, and then if you're in areas that are low-lying or near some of the rivers, you likely would be advised to be evacuating at this time. We are already seeing impacts. In Southwest Florida, we're seeing storm surge. I mean, the eye of this storm is probably 100 miles or more off the coast of Southwest Florida, and yet those outer bands are already showing significant impacts. So you're going to see impacts all up and down the west coast of Florida as the night goes on and as we get in to the wee hours of tomorrow morning. We have been working with folks for the evacuations, so the tolls have been suspended in Citrus, Hernando, Hillsborough, Lake, Pasco, Pinellas, and Sumter County. That started at 4 a.m. this morning. That will continue until this event is concluded. We've also worked with the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association to make sure that all hotels will allow you to bring your pets. Don't leave your pets behind. You got to take them with you, and these hotels are going to be understanding of that. All the counties have at least one pet-friendly shelter as well. So please take care of your pets. Very, very important. They need you in this type of circumstance. Uber has also announced that they will be offering free round-trip rides to and from evacuation shelters with a value up to $35. You can use the code Idalia Relief to be able to claim that. So we want to thank Uber for stepping up and helping. We have all 8 urban search and rescue teams with almost 600 personnel ready to deploy to help with search and rescue efforts. Hopefully that's not necessary. Hopefully everyone heeded the warnings, and hopefully nobody ends up in harm's way when the storm hits. But we know that that's likely to be a necessity to have some rescues. So these folks are ready to go. They're located up and down the state, and they are going to go where they are needed, and we really appreciate having them. We also have additional search and rescue personnel that are going to be augmenting the USAR teams. We've been working with counties to make sure they have the resources they need to deploy. We've received 400 active missions that we are coordinating. We've either fulfilled or will have those fulfilled today and be ready to go when the storm hits tomorrow. We have 1.1 million gallons of fuel that's staged and ready to deploy. We don't know what the fuel situation is going to be like. Sometimes it could be bad, sometimes not as much. This will be able to fill gaps if those gaps exist. There are over 50 shelters throughout the state that are open, and every county that has any type of evacuation notice does then open at least one shelter for people to go to. Our Florida Highway Safety Motor Vehicle has 5 Florida licensing on wheel mobiles and 6 mini mobiles ready to deploy to impacted areas to help residents replace important documents such as driver's license. Hopefully that's not going to be necessary, but if you end up in that situation, we want to have folks that are going to be able to help you out with that. We've deployed almost 250 Starlink internet devices. We have another 500 plus staged and ready to go, and we'll likely be putting those into place soon after the storm passes by. Many school districts have announced school closures for today and for tomorrow. So please just check with your county, but if you're in the path of this storm, it's pretty good bet that the schools are not going to be open tomorrow. We also have 18 state colleges and 6 universities that are not having school tomorrow as well. As the winds become stronger today and into the night, Florida Department of Transportation will be coordinating with FHP and local law enforcement to close bridges once wind speeds reach 40 miles an hour or more. So just keep in mind with that, with any plans that you have, once the wind gets to a certain point, those bridges are not going to be safe to traverse, and Florida Highway Patrol will work with local officials to make sure that people are kept safe. We have been in contact with many states that have offered their assistance, and we're grateful for their efforts. We've already have National Guardsmen from both Tennessee and South Carolina. I want to thank them for stepping up and helping us out. We also have called up 33 ambulance strike teams with over 200 ambulances that are ready to surge in any of the impacted areas. So this is crunch time right now. We're going to get hit with a major hurricane. It'll be sometime, the eye will arrive on shore sometime tomorrow morning, most likely. And it is going to have major impacts, particularly along Florida's Big Bend region. So listen to your local officials. Take the appropriate precautions to protect you and your family. And once the storm passes, we will have help that will be on the way in the form of power restoration. We were able to go to Wildwood in Central Florida to meet with all the Duke Energy personnel that have been pre-staged there to help with Duke Energy and their power restoration efforts. We've got close to 30,000 people that are in the state of Florida staged for power restoration efforts. So that's going to be a priority to be able to get the power back on for folks. Obviously, search and rescue to the extent that's needed. Those guys are going to be ready to go. And Kevin and his team have a lot of staging of food, water, the things that people need when normal services are interrupted. So everybody hang in there. This is going to be something that will leave significant impacts, and particularly in this part of the state, you really got to go back to the late 1800s to find a storm of this magnitude that will enter where this one looks like it's going to enter tomorrow. So we don't really have a historical analog in anybody's memory. So it's likely to cause a lot of damage, and that's just the reality. So be prepared for that. Be prepared to lose power, and just know that there's a lot of folks that are going to be there to help you get back on your feet. Okay, we're going to hear from Kevin Guthrie.
Thank you, Governor. Good evening, everyone. As the governor has said, it's crunch time. We're down to the wire. Hurricane Idalia will be making landfall tomorrow morning. Some parts of Florida are obviously already feeling those impacts. We're seeing a lot of videos and still pictures coming out of Southwest Florida, specifically in Fort Myers Beach and those areas that were impacted a year ago. Again, want to let those people know that we're going to be there as soon as we can get to you guys tomorrow morning. We will have some of our southern staged assets in there to help you guys and evaluate some of that damage. If you haven't evacuated, you're north of Fort Myers, you're up into the central Gulf Coast, northern Big Bend area. If you have not evacuated, you need to do that right now. You need to drop what you're doing. You need to go to your room, pack up, pack your things, and get to safety. If you need power, you need to get to safety. You need to evacuate right now. We are going to experience historical flood surge up into the Big Bend area. This is nothing to be messing around with. We were in the vehicle traveling with the governor when I got the phone call that there was going to be potentially 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. Put that in perspective, that's 3 foot higher than what was predicted for Hurricane Ian in Fort Myers Beach. So please heed the warnings. If you're in that Big Bend area, your emergency managers are calling for an evacuation, please do it. I was on the phone again with Levy County, John McDonald. He is greatly concerned about Cedar Key, 12 to 13 feet of storm surge there. We've got to act, and we got to act now. We have launched our state assistance information line, or also referred to as cell line. That's number is 1-800-342-3557. Again, that's 1-800-342-3557. Residents can call the cell line and find out about how to prepare before, during, and after a hurricane, road closures, alternate routes, available open shelters, shelters designed for medically dependent individuals, and reentry information once it is safe to return. You can also, of course, get up-to-date information on our website at floridadisaster.org/updates. I know that we were with the CFO, and I would reiterate what he said earlier today. Take pictures. Take pictures of your home now. See what it looks like now before the storm is here, so that, again, when it happens, if you have damage, you then take pictures. You have before and after pictures. Taking pictures of the interior portion of your home as well, not just the exterior portion of your home. And then please do not be taken advantage of after the storm. Make sure that you are you don't do any cash transactions, you don't sign anything. If you've got any type of issues when it comes to insurance, you can always call the CFO's office at 1-877-MY-FL-CFO, and he will certainly help you out through all of that. So please heed warnings, do smart things. Please evacuate right now if you need to do so. And again, Governor, as always, thank you for your leadership on this.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, Governor, for your leadership and for your support of your Florida National Guard. Director Guthrie, thank you for your tremendous work and of your team, the great work you're doing to ready our state to protect Florida citizens. The Florida National Guard is fully mobilized with over 5,500 soldiers and airmen deployed or deploying. We are ready to provide humanitarian assistance, search and rescue, route clearance, and security missions throughout the area of operations in partnership with our state and local agencies. Over the past 48 hours, the Florida National Guard has been positioning personnel and units in strategic locations
We are going to take you to the Gulf. We've had better days in that department as the waves have been kicking, and well offshore they're even upwards of 30 feet. That's about closer to the core, as the winds have been upwards of 100 miles an hour plus near the center of circulation. Here's another view as we take you to downtown Fort Myers. And this is going to be right along Billy Creek, and it's right along the Caloosahatchee. And, you know, I know we had one of our previous reporters talking about how the tide levels have gotten better. Well, that's because we're approaching low tide. And when you are at full moon, you get these greater tidal swings. Your low tides are lower, but your high tides are higher. And basically from now to midnight, we're going to be approaching our low tide. And then I do believe we probably would see our greatest water level rise and surge between midnight and sunrise. So please plan accordingly. We will see some coastal flooding. Right now, the National Hurricane Center has us between 2 to 4 feet. So here's going to be the storm, severe weather, and that is embedded within these squalls if you have friends and family on the East Coast. But there it is, 150 miles off of our coast, and that is the closest that it will get. I know that there was some apprehension when we had mentioned that the past few days that it was not going to be our storm. Well, I can confirm to you it's going to stay off, okay? And as it will continue to work its way up the coast, it's going to be wrapping around these bands of showers and storms. So I would like to show you that with a time lapse. So we're going to put this into motion, and it's about an hour time lapse. And you can see these bands of rain, one after another, rotating around the storm. Now, the bulk of this is going to move likely due north, maybe a little bit north-northeast, but I'm mainly thinking Sarasota, Tampa Bay, Clearwater. They're going to see the bulk of this as it pushes north and northeast. For us, what we will see is more than likely some of these other bands that are to the south of this, and then potentially maybe even ones right here. Okay, so our chances for rain for the remainder of the evening likely come on the southeastern side. And there's been a small deviation from the center line, you know, right about here, but overall still going according to plan in terms of its general track. Now let's take it county by county, and that way everybody knows what to expect. A lot of fast movers, these individual showers with brief heavy rain, and it is within that brief downpour that those squalls and gusty wind upwards of 40 miles an hour will be possible. So more of these isolated showers, and then your steadier rain. That looks like a squall that has really broken apart. And then as we go big picture, I always like to make sure everybody's included. You can see for Arcadia, LaBelle, and Clewiston, you guys are doing just fine. So here's a look offshore, 30-foot waves near the core, then slowly going down to about 10 feet, 25 miles off the coast. And locally, they have been registering at about 5 to 10 feet. At times, I've seen the system trying to develop an eye. If you look very closely, right there, we had some partial clearing, but nothing too well defined, and not like Hurricane Franklin in the Atlantic yesterday. It was almost a Category 5 with max winds at 150. So here's the wind field. It is 240 miles wide in diameter. And whenever you see those stats, and for example, right now it's 100 miles an hour, that's only in a small part of the storm right here. That's not for the whole storm seeing 100, just a small part embedded within the eye wall. So these are the stats. Winds are at 100 miles an hour. The pressure's at 972 millibars, and that makes it as a solid Category 2 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, and that does correlate to extensive damage in the locations that it makes landfall at. And that does look to be the Florida Big Bend. That was the thinking yesterday and the day before, and that will be the case. They are going to have just a terrible hurricane, and one of the strongest that they have seen since 1950. That's how long it's been since they have had a storm to this caliber around the Florida Big Bend, and they are expecting landfall on Wednesday. These were the models yesterday, and if anything, they've been trending in a better direction for us, but still narrowing in on that part of the coast. Wind speeds right now sustained between about 10 to 25 miles an hour, highest along the coastline. And the reason why they're highest along the coastline, you're closer to the system, but also when the winds come off of the Gulf, you have less friction. Friction is on land, trees, homes, development. That can sometimes slow down wind, but along the Gulf, you don't have that, so you get the highest potential wind, and that's what we're seeing right now along the shore. We do get every now and then some squalls. These are the highest wind gusts so far today. Ochapee 50, Everglades City 46, Grove City and Charlotte County 43. So there's St. James City 42, and Sanibel has been averaging, at least officially, in the mid-30s. Power outages right now over 8 grand. Highest concentration is going to be in Glades County. Here's a storm surge forecast. The main window of time is going to be the tide levels going up between midnight and sunrise, and then starting to go back down as we hit the second half of tomorrow. Tornado potential will be with us all the way into tomorrow morning, and just like the surge, starting to decline as we go deeper into your Wednesday. So here's how everything plays out with our future track model. Good riddance, Idalia, as that is going to be moving more and more across the Gulf away from us, but we still get some impacts and wraparound bands of rain and storms on the southeastern side. Here's the future track model at midnight. This is going to be 2 and 3 a.m., which I hope that you can maybe sleep a little bit better in knowing that the worst part of the storm, it's out of here by that point. But if we were to have any rotating cells, we will have everybody in the Weather Center at all points for the next 24 hours. You are going to be covered, and if anything starts to spin, the Wink Weather team will let you know. Here's the status of these bands of rain wrapping around, and embedded within these areas, you can sometimes get these slivers of some locally heavy rain. We call that training, where you could see a quick 3 to 6 inches of rain, if not greater. It is at least possible. Here's our future track model, 3 o'clock on Wednesday, as by that point, the system would be about 300 miles away. Future track wind gusts in the short term, and this is not sustained. These are just the occasional bursts of wind, as they will be kicked up a notch as we hit midnight and during the overnight hours. As we then hit sunrise, if not a little later on Wednesday, this is 9 a.m., occasionally some gusts hitting tropical storm force over 40 will be possible. How about the rainfall? On top of what you have already seen, this is the brand new model showing in slivers some locally heavy rain of 1 to 3, on average likely 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches of rain. Here's the storm surge map, and it's going to be the combo of the full moon as well as the south wind. You know, wind is a force, and it's going to be forcing up the waters. Here's our high tide, and then the worst case scenario from the National Hurricane Center, 9 times out of 10, it won't look like this geographically, okay? And it won't look this scary 9 times out of 10, but National Hurricane Center would rather over-prepare you than under-prepare you. But you can see at least some of that inundation into Charlotte County. Then as we take you into Lee County, the shading of blue, notice the high tide times. Sanibel, Captiva, there's Matlacha, Cape Coral, as well as Fort Myers. And then some of that coastal flooding into Collier County with your high tide, 1250 Naples, ranging around 3 a.m. for Everglades City. So I'm going to wrap it up with the 7 and 10-day forecast. Once we hit about Thursday, Friday, we gradually get back to normal. And then how about we all enjoy our Labor Day weekend? I'm all for that. We're back to normal, highs in the 90s, as we will see a typical chance of rain. Guys?
Matt, thank you very much. Let's take a look around the area here. A customer out for lunch at Dock Ford's on Fort Myers Beach when staff closed and evacuated the restaurant due to this flooding from the hurricane storm surge. This video shows the effects of a combination of high tides and the storm surge that Matt's been talking about on the restaurant's dock and the outdoor area. These are some additional photos sent in from a viewer showing the flooding at Dock Ford's. This is also Fort Myers Beach around 2:30. You can see that's an awful lot of water coming up close, but it's the outdoor deck.
Yeah, and we have another view of the deck here, and you see the water just kind of lapping up onto the deck. Things have cleared now, but that's what it looked like earlier today.
They just reopened too, so thankfully
Yeah.
that's outdoors and the water will go away. And
you see the dock and where the people moor their boats and stuff, and it's right up to the lip of that dock and splashing over. So it was pretty high earlier today, and again, it could be high at high tide again in the overnight hours.
Yep, at least one more of those to get through. We're going to be back right after the break.
I'm Lois Tomei. Idalia is now a Category 2 hurricane. It's brought some intense weather to us this afternoon. Let's bring back Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt.
That's right. And if you are just tuning in and just joining us, it is about 150 miles off the coast, and that is the closest it will get. So 150 miles off of the shoreline, and it will not approach any closer. So let's take a look at how it has been trending, and a little bit of a nudge to the east of the center line, but only by a couple miles, nothing drastic. As we zoom on in locally, I do have some fast-moving areas of rain. That has been the case. As we zoom on in, especially near Cape Hayes, and let's time this out. We'll do a storm cone. That way you know where it's heading and at what rate. And this is pretty much going to ride right up the coastline. So if this holds together, heads up for Grove City, Manasota Key, and Englewood over the next 15 to 30 minutes. Just a little downpour, some brief gusty wind, and then we also have a solid batch of widespread rain for Immokalee and Ave Maria. Here's the infrared satellite imagery as the system is trying to develop a more solid core. Category 2 strength right now, 240 miles wide in diameter. It's pushing to the north at 16, which a friendly reminder, that is way faster than Ian. With Ian, it's just so long and drawn out, all the impacts. Well, this system, as it nears its landfall, will be moving twice as fast at 17 miles an hour. So here's the forecast cone, which is going to be narrowing in on the Florida Big Bend, especially between Apalachicola and Cedar Key as we hit tomorrow. National Hurricane Center at 5 o'clock did lower the maximum intensity from 125 to 115, but in the grand scheme of things, still very significant. I've had a few people share the computer model projections in time with me online. They're getting a little nervous, so let's address it. There are a few models, and not all. When you ever see these computer models online, the worst case scenario doesn't mean it's the most accurate. That's not how that works. You want to look at all the models, and only a few have it curving back to Florida. I have a good solid percentage that waits a little bit to make up their mind, and then the majority do have it eventually working its way northeast. But I'll analyze trends for you. If anything does change, I'll let you know. Wind speeds right now are sustained at about 10 to 25 miles an hour, gusting higher than that. These are the highest wind speeds that we have had so far today, as far as the occasional gusts, as we have been gusting upwards of about 30 to 50 miles an hour. These are the storm impacts for the next 12 hours, leveling at a 2 and 3. Here's the hour-by-hour forecast, as it basically is going to be offshore of Tampa Bay as we hit 11 and midnight. It eventually nears its approach and landfall with our hour-by-hour forecast towards the Big Bend. And Lois and Chris, not only are they going to be experiencing the storm surge of 10 to 15 feet, also wind gusts over 100 miles an hour will be possible.
All right, we'll certainly be tracking that as it heads closer and hoping those folks get out. Meantime, here, this is a look at the Sanibel Causeway Bridge, taking on some wind and some storm surge. You can see how close it's getting to the cars, but at this point this afternoon, the cars were getting back and forth okay.
Yeah, and that's why people are not supposed to be on the road. They're worried about that exact scenario where you shouldn't be. So we're going to take a look at the Sanibel Causeway area right now. Wink News environmental reporter Liz Byro is live on Sanibel Island. And Liz, throughout the day you've had weather, good weather, bad weather. How are things there tonight?
Well, right now, as you can tell, it is gusty out here. I want to turn to the side, but I don't want to look directly at the wind. We have sand just flying along the beach. But one thing I will say from driving around the barrier islands today, people did an amazing job heeding instructions to take down any kind of debris, right? We're all going through repairs, rebuilding right now. People had plywood out last week. People had, tiles, concrete stacked on their roof last week, but all that stuff is down, and it protected a lot of people. You can see the waves. They are choppy. Earlier this morning, things were a little more choppy, especially during high tide, but it's not stopping people from enjoying their beach day. Now, I want you to take a look at this video right here. This is James. He is sitting in an inner tube, and it looks like he's just floating, but James and his friends are using this tube for a little joyride around Lighthouse Beach Park. Pretty crazy activity to do today. They took some laps around the park, and then there were others at Lighthouse Beach who were just enjoying some seashelling. I want you to take a listen to what he said. James, when I asked him where he got this idea.
We saw a puddle down that way, and I already had the tube, so I was like, I gotta get in.
We thought it'd be great shelling. The waves are coming in. They're bringing in the good shells. We're looking for our prize shell today.
Yes. We just got here, and I have to say I'm a little disappointed. But we shellers always come home with one treasure.
I'm gonna be out here if they let us. If they tell us to wait, then we'll wait, and then we'll come back.
Yeah, right now on Sanibel, in some places things are all fun and games, but as day turns to night, and like Matt said, as we start to experience high tide, Sanibel's been saying that we're more likely to get some storm surge. Now this morning I was here at 11:10 a.m. when we had high tide, and I can tell you right now, the water went all the way from here down to Sanibel Captiva Road. Now today we can expect high tide on Sanibel at 1:42 a.m. and then a little after noon tomorrow. I'll keep you updated on everything here on Sanibel. It's windy out here, but no rain. Live on Sanibel, Liz Byro, Wink News.
All right, thank you very much, Liz. Some crazy high-flowing water in Isle of Capri earlier today. This is just north of Marco Island. It was taken about 1:36. Wink News this morning, anchor Lindsay Sablon alerted us to this video from someone she knows on Isle of Capri, and you can see it was really moving there for a time today. We also got some look at some high, fast water moving at a dock by Lemon Bay in Sarasota County. This was about 1 o'clock. It was sent to us by Justin Imey, and you can see the water was pretty high there today.
Having a plan for your pets is important if evacuations are ordered, and right now there is no plan for any evacuations, but if it should happen, do not leave your pets behind. If you can't bring your pets with you, there are options available. Ask a friend or a relative if they can house sit or house the pet for you. Also, contact shelters and veterinarians to see if they house animals during emergencies. If your pet is traveling with you, prepare a portable pet disaster kit. That includes food, water, medicine, and medical records, leashes, a travel case, and a photo of the pet with contact information. For more on pet safety and other disaster tips, visit floridadisaster.org.
Wink News, the Weather Authority.
Governor DeSantis just wrapped up a news conference at the State Emergency Operations Center a little while ago. He gave some critical updates for people that are in the direct path of Idalia right now in the Big Bend region, which not too long from now faces up to 15 feet of storm surge, just like we had on Fort Myers Beach during Hurricane Ian.
Yeah, the governor says the vast majority of people in Cedar Key have evacuated, and he believes it's because they had advanced warning.
I think it was a big percentage, and probably a bigger percentage in some of those really sensitive areas than happened in Hurricane Ian with some of those areas that ended up being ground zero. Of course, I think there's been a lot more notice that this storm was likely to hit in this area compared to Ian, because I think we had some track shifts, so I understand how people process that. But we've been talking about the Big Bend now for a few days, and I think people got the message, and I think by and large, I think that they have heeded the advice.
We really hope everybody did leave. That's the only way to stay safe in a situation where you're expecting as much as 15 feet of storm surge.
Hopefully they learned from us last year, because like Matt's been saying, they haven't had a storm this serious up there in years and years, so hopefully they heeded the warnings and got out. Remember, when you're going to fill up your gas containers, you want to be extra cautious if you're working your generators here. Keep those containers sealed tight and handle with care. You want to leave a little extra room in the container for air, since the cans can swell up when gas molecules expand. When you get it home, keep it away from anything that could spark, and store it in a separate building if you can.
And if you lose power and you decide to pull out that generator, just remember they can be deadly if they are used incorrectly. So make sure you're safe. They produce poisonous, colorless, odorless gas that can be fatal. According to the Bayshore Fire Department in Fort Myers, you should follow the rule of 20 when using a portable generator. Keep that generator 20 feet from your home. Cool the generator for at least 20 minutes before refueling, and buy a carbon monoxide alarm. They cost $20.
Keep your trash inside this week. The city of Cape Coral is telling people not to put their trash cans out tonight. The totes can turn into projectiles in high wind. The city says Waste Pro trucks will start running on Wednesday after sunrise, so you should wait to put your trash out until 7 o'clock Wednesday morning. Thursday and Friday trash pickups, they tell us, will not be affected.
And for the latest Idalia coverage, Wink News offers a host of options. Watch Wink News on your Roku TV.